I'm Joe Flanigan, and this is the Shuttlepod Show. And I was like, oh, wow. But sci-fi TV, I don't know that I am actually good enough. I may not be full of shit, but I don't know if I'm not good.
I don't know if I'm that good.
I'm serious. I was like, I always felt like Star Trek was so stiff and like, you know, proper and like it was Shakespeare in space. And I was like, I don't know that I could wear that tight outfit and be like, brr, brr, brr.
Right.
So I said,
Never has there been a more clear description
That was great.
of much of Star Trek.
Gonna go and do my convention thing. Got my costume on going now. Yeah, we're having a ball. It's Star Trek, y'all. Hey, down the border. Beam me up.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Shuttlepod Show. Today we have special guest from Stargate Atlantis, Joe Flanigan. We'll be answering your fan questions, doing some Star Trek trivia, finding ourselves on Connor's remote island, and much more. As always, our Patreon members get a full extended version of this episode. I'm Erica LaRose, but before we move on, we have a special message from Andy Robinson.
Like, subscribe, and join us on Patreon.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Andrew.
And now for your hosts, Connor Trenier and guest host, Mark Cartier.
Hey, hey.
Hi, you.
Well, we are missing Dom. He's probably around now looking at
Indiana?
Crazy Horse or
South Dakota somewhere?
South Dakota somewhere, finding his way back here.
I'm dumb for the day again.
You are. How's your British?
I can say cunt.
yeah.
Oh,
That's about it.
That's how we start the show.
Just awesome. Just say it with a better accent.
Wow. Okay. Apparently, Porthos was left here for the week, and we're in West Hollywood, so now he has a fancy bedazzled collar.
Don't know where it came from,
So
apparently?
blingy.
Yeah, it
This is a
blingy.
mystery. He's been in an art department box with all of our props for the show for the last week, and he went into the box without a collar. He came out of the box with a collar.
That's how you want it.
That's how you want it, I
Right.
guess, if it's going to happen.
Chris,
Yeah.
you have no idea.
That's right. Oh, my God. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Treks and Trekkers, welcome to the Shuttlepod Show. We are here once again at the Matrix, guests of Rogue Machine Theater, and we have our first number one on the call sheet.
Yes. We're very excited about
Yeah, seriously. Our second gator,
that. Yes.
Colonel John Sheppard, played by Joe Flanigan.
Yay, Joe
Thanks.
Flanigan.
I'm a gator. That's what it is.
You're-
Star Gator.
Yeah.
Got it. I kinda like that.
I was coming here and I was thinking to myself, I was like, Joe Flanigan, Irish, right? I imagine.
Just a little.
A little bit. Just a little. All the way through?
Hey, for hell, my son's name is Fergus Flanagan.
Fergus, for fuck's sake. Because I was like, you really can't say Joe Flanigan with a little bit of a lilt of a Joe Flanigan's here today.
Yes. And I found out that Flanagan means the ruddy ones,
Oh.
which would pretty much imply we were just a clan of drunk people running around
Well,
with ruddy cheeks.
From the manor born.
Hey, we're the Flanagans. Oh, for Christ's sakes, watch yourself. The Flanagans are coming.
Oh, don't sip on the peach. We need that for the whiskey. Do you know where your family's from?
They're Dublin, and then there's some in the South. Yeah. If I remember correctly, my father was quite a bit older, like a World War II vet. But after World War II, he and my uncle went to Ireland and did a little tour to find relatives. And they couldn't find anybody. And they went through all these different towns, and like one of the most miserable town, like a town filled with drunks, like the town drunk in a town of drunks.
Oh, no, he found
was
his-
like our only relative left.
I know you guys. I know you guys.
And I love that everybody goes to Europe and goes, well, my second cousin twice removed by marriage is the Earl of, Mustard.
Right.
And I'm like, no, we don't have any of that.
We got
Sorry.
a town drunk.
We are pretty much at the bottom of the barrel.
That's fine.
My family's from Cork and Donegal.
Aye.
Because you couldn't be a Connor without being Irish. Well,
Wait, hold on. You're Irish? How did I not know this? I
Well,
thought you were
Trenier's
German and
French,
English.
but my mom's side is Irish, and my dad's side as well. But Trenier is it's
French.
Gaelic. It's Norman. It's Normandy.
Ooh. You're one of them.
Yeah, exactly. We went up north, and then we went over there, down to Canada, and all the way down to America.
I got that French bit of me too.
And
Yeah.
thankfully, they lost their accent when they came down from the north.
That's right.
Geez.
Yes.
Eventually.
Oh, it took a minute.
Did you ever do 23andMe?
I did.
Did you?
Yes. And, they got better. Like 23andMe, they originally go, oh, you're Western European, like
Yeah,
predominantly.
yeah.
And I was like, well, what the hell is that?
I knew that.
That is just so vague.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then like a year later, they sent me another email saying they had a bigger breakdown. And I think I was something like 65%, or maybe more. Maybe it was like 75% Irish and like 10% Scottish. And then I can't remember
Other
the rest.
places.
But I will tell you one thing. No, my youngest son, my middle son was the first to do the 23andMe. And he came back with like 2% Kazakh. I was like,
that's the thing.
Where the hell did you get the Kazakh?
Yeah.
Mongolia.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Mongolians.
I
That's where
did
it came
this
from.
last year, and my great-grandmother was a Choctaw.
Yeah.
And I, for
Oh, really?
years, was like, I'm a legal Native American.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
You did big-
Only to
do-
find out.
Only to find out I do 23andMe. It turns out I'm white.
Yeah.
I'm white. I'm Northern European.
this.
I'm Ireland. I'm England. I'm Scotland. There's a little bit of the Northern French, and then I'm 99.5% white and 5% or 0.5%
Yeah.
Choctaw.
Yeah. And the 0.5% is the one we like.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
the fun one.
That's the fun one.
Yeah, exactly.
When you drink and throw axes at us.
Oh, have you seen his axe collection?
Oh, we're not that intimate.
No, we haven't thrown axes together. That's a whole other.
Actually,
thing.
I have thrown a lot of axes. Jason and
Well.
I love axes, as you know.
Do you have one?
I don't have
Jason
one with
Momoa?
me. Yeah. But the axe throwing we just love it. It was knife throwing and axe throwing. Oh, with 3 boys, I had to come up with some kind of game that
could be dangerous.
satiates this kind of dormant kind of
Aggressive.
cannibalism and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like
Manliness.
axe throwing. It was very like kind of visceral.
I was just going to say visual.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. Until they start chasing each other with the axes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't
Until
know
then,
you did that, Connor.
What?
Axe throwing.
Well, I'm
Here and there.
surprising.
He pulls them out when he's losing at pool.
That's right. Exactly.
doesn't
I'm
like-
gonna get you. Damn it.
Yeah.
the problem is he goes into dart games. With it.
Exactly.
Well, and
That's
thank
one
God.
thing.
for
Put your
me,
hand out.
He's worse at axe throwing than he is at pool, so that's why I'm still alive.
That's true.
But
That's
by
true.
the way, the 23andMe thing, to me, is fascinating.
I
Because
agree.
I'm trying to figure out the amount of people that have discovered.
Oh,
Because one of the most prevalent myths anywhere are family myths.
Oh, absolutely.
Because all family myths require is to be retold like 5 or 6 times, and it's suddenly true.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Or
it
even
gets
just
told
once.
through generations, and then suddenly you got 23andMe, and it must have debunked so many family myths. And I'm just wondering what the overall fallout is.
It's like a
I'm
meme.
an example of this. So when I was growing up, I was told that there was Cherokee in the family. It turned out to be Choctaw. And I was like, I don't have any tattoos, but I was like, and I'm going to get a Cherokee like symbol right here. And I'm going to get an Irish flag right here. And it turns out that
You're neither
You would've been-
Irish
I'm,
nor Choctaw.
exactly. I mean, I'm Gaelic and I'm orange Irish for the most part.
Ooh. Hey,
Sorry.
I'd be sitting next to you.
Well, we can talk about this later.
Go be
So
drinking
you're-
your Bushmills. Get
right.
lost.
Your family's Irish. Where were you born?
I was born in the United States.
Where?
I was actually born in Los Angeles.
Oh, you were.
Yes, weirdly enough.
City proper or
In
LA County?
Burbank.
In Burbank.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Totally
beautiful
bizarre.
Burbank.
Providence?
Burbank proper?
Providence Hospital?
Oh no, it was St. Joe's.
Oh, okay.
St. Joseph's.
St. Joseph.
Yeah, and then pretty sure they named the hospital after me after I was born.
Well, look at this one.
Yeah.
We're going to name it
We're
after
gonna rename this.
We're changing everything. The chosen one.
It was St. Mark's at first, and then you showed up.
Yeah. This is why I hate you. We got you on the show because you keep taking my hospital names.
Yeah, and then I think I moved. My parents moved all of us up to a place near Reno, Lake Tahoe. That's kind of area.
Yeah.
When I was, I'm gonna say 6 or 7. So it was pretty early. I don't have a lot of memories of being down here. And it was a kind of like a ranch, and it was pretty much out in the country.
It was like a high desert, or was it?
It's
up,
high desert.
mountains?
It's at the base of the Eastern Sierras.
Oh,
Beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah.
Totally empty and quiet. Like now it's a bigger town.
Right.
Yeah.
But back then I remember just fighting my parents to drive me into town for like some sports. They were like, "Oh, it's too far." So
Play with a rock.
Yeah, play
it was.
with the garden hose.
Play with the same rock you played with yesterday. But I'm serious, actually. Actually, it's kind of frightening because on this ranch, my dad actually gave me a reward system of, we had to do a lot of work, but one was magpies, pigeons, and muskrats were enemies of the ranch. So I would get $1 to shoot a pigeon.
My Lord.
$2 to shoot a magpie, and $10 for a muskrat. So I spent a lot of my childhood walking around with a shotgun.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
were just talking
We
about
were.
this.
Really?
My son is 13, and he's got a gun because his mother likes guns. And he,
There's a whole backstory.
That's it. There is, exactly.
That's a separate
We're a-
podcast.
We're a northern Minnesota family from the woods. He lives in the woods and has many acres to tramp around on. And we were just talking about how old we were when we
Yeah.
had our first gun experience, and
Yeah.
whether or not my son should be allowed to have a gun.
13, you said?
13.
That's
right around the time-
Listen, I was probably 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I think if you follow protocols and everything else, you're fine. But our guns were never meant to be brandished, and
Right.
they were never bragging. Like you never bragged or brandished.
It was a tool.
It was a
Yeah,
tool.
I mean it was a tool, and everybody had. I mean, you had, gun racks on your trucks.
Yeah.
You could see the guns when you were driving.
Oh, yeah.
You could drink with an open container for a long time, and have your gun racks.
In the truck.
And I don't remember anybody freaking out and being scared. I don't know. I know we're going into a different thing, but
No. It's
No.
I feel like the whole concept of guns have gotten hyped up and militarized. And that's
absolutely.
when I stopped being a member of the NRA because I was like, you guys are loony. I mean, I'll wait a week for a clearance on
I'll wait a
buying a
month.
gun.
Sure.
And when I hunt, I don't need a machine gun, for Christ's sakes.
No. You don't want to eviscerate the thing.
It's just, it's totally ridiculous. The
Yeah.
whole thing was
if
like,
you're a hunter,
but there must be something bigger to this about this concept of empowerment. And like, I feel like people feel disempowered, and somehow guns are this like way to re-empower themselves or something. And I don't get it.
maybe. I mean, I grew up, in a small town in Washington, and when it was hunting season, we were just talking about this. That, like, my buddies would show up with their 30-06 sitting in their gun rack, and in the parking lot there must have been 15, 20 of them, because after school these dudes would go out and hunt.
Yeah.
And nobody cared about it. Nobody even thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference, I imagine, is we're not talking about 30-06s and 22s. We're talking about
AR-15s.
AR-15s.
Yeah, well, also, like my school would shut down when deer hunting season would start because everyone was gone hunting. And guns weren't a problem like they are now. I think it's, and this is another conversation, obviously, but social media and the day of everyone going village crazy, all the crazy villagers are going nuts with their pitchforks.
Right.
When with social media, you're not a pariah in your community anymore when you act out like this. You have people all over the world who think like you.
Yeah.
You suddenly feel like you're a part of a
You have a
bigger
community.
community.
You have a very large community of pitchfork people.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. There's every one of the pitchfork people in every town around the world has your back, so you're not alone. Where back in the day when it was just newspapers.
That's part of it, but
yeah.
statistically, and I know somebody will fact check me, hopefully.
Oh,
but
we're gonna
there's
get
something.
comments, yeah.
There's something going on with it where they said like around 2004 there were like maybe 400,000 AR-15s in the United States, and now there's like 25 million or something.
Yeah.
So that just gives you an idea of the angle gun manufacturers have gone down of selling this stuff and hyping it up. And
not only
so
that-
like what I just don't understand it.
You can also part the thing out. You can find out how to build one online, and,
Yeah.
and have your own AR-15 without even having.
Out of plastics. with 3D printers
Right.
that don't get detected
Right.
in scanners. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a great
On a lighter note.
how-to manual. This is a great terrorism how-to manual.
We're gonna pause for a moment.
So I would shoot various animals and then collect them and then get paid.
Oh.
And I figured out how to put the shotgun kind of holster and tie it to the side of my XR80, that motorcycle that I had, which I would cruise around with
What are you,
no
Mad
helmet.
Max?
No, I mean the fact that I'm alive.
Exactly.
It's just crazy. And then I realized, after like the 5th year of my dad getting my name wrong, that I was like pretty much on my own. Right. So I was like, okay, there's no protective cover here. He was older and he had 8 kids. So toward the end, he was calling me by my brother's name.
You're lucky you ate.
And I was like, I just didn't have the heart to tell him, that's not my name.
That's not my name.
But it did give me a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
If my brother's name was Michael, I'm like, Michael did it.
Yeah. I thought that was you.
Michael did it.
I mean, we were talking earlier as well that, like, I saw this thing on Twitter where there was a 20-year-old guy saying, like, so, your generation, you drank out of hoses.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't there like a sink? And this woman pops up and she goes, here's the deal. We were kicked out of our house. We couldn't come back in all day long.
Yeah.
So how'd we drink? We drank out of hoses.
The sun was up, you were outside, and you were drinking from your neighbor's hoses.
Yeah.
That's how I grew up.
Right?
I never did that.
What? Out of a hose?
drank
You
out
grew
of
up
hoses.
in Connecticut. Yeah.
Where there were no hoses?
Oh, no, it wasn't into the hoses.
I think
They
that's
gave her a very nice packed lunch with Perrier.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Sent
And I
her
went to
off
dance class. No gun.
Right. And Dunkin' Donuts.
It's very funny because I'm very wary of making these kind of older person nostalgic comments
Yeah.
to my kids, like back in the day.
Yeah.
Because then you sound like Joe Biden,
Yeah.
My,
Exactly.
My Uncle Jimmy used to say to me, and all that nonsense. So I try to keep it real. But
Back
there
in Scranton. In
I was
Scranton.
gonna say.
yeah, there are actual real, just massive changes. And I was very conscious of raising 3 boys. I mean, the thing I love the most, and I'm most proud of, is that I'm a father of 3 boys. They're awesome. I love my boys. They've turned out remarkably well despite my best efforts to screw them up. And but I do, and I make a point of trying to see the differences. I decided not to hover. I decided to see, well, let's see how many mistakes they can make and how much they're going to learn, because my fear was like, if anything happened to me, do they have any risk assessment skills? They're going to need those, because boys in particular want to push the envelope. And I find these families that are protecting their kids, and these kids don't have risk assessment skills because they're like, oh, somebody will be there to
Fix it
catch
for
me
me.
when
fix
I
it.
fall.
Yeah.
Right.
And nothing will happen and nobody get hurt. And
Right.
then they're the ones getting in these car accidents and
Right.
stuff. And I just said to myself, there's got to be a better way where they don't feel scared, but they're also scared enough to assess a situation. So far it's worked, like I'm saying this on camera now, so I got to be careful.
Say it right.
But they definitely don't take as many risks as I took as a kid. And I'm really happy about that.
Same
That's
here.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there one better than the other?
Yeah,
of your kids are the best?
definitely is a higher. Yeah, well, I always tell them who's better.
Right. Yeah.
I say, he's my favorite, you're my least favorite.
And what's your name?
You were adopted. I don't know where you come in.
I thought you were the dog for 2 years.
But then you went on to go to boarding school from there, right, to Ojai?
Yeah, there weren't really any schools, so I went to boarding school, and we had boarders in 1st grade. How crazy is that?
What?
Yeah.
What?
Adults? What do you mean?
In 1st grade, there's not a lot of adults, but maybe you know some.
Oh, you
Maybe you know those creepy
Where I
people
grew up,
that
there
are
was a few
older
guys who were
first grade.
23 years old going through the 1st grade over and over and over.
He'll get it. I know he'll get it one day. 2nd grade is
2
is
plus
when
2 is
it-
no, it's that.
it's not what you think.
No,
it
we had boarders, and that's very unusual because that's more of the British system. And you really don't get a lot of boarders at that age.
Right.
And based on my experience, I was like, well, a lot of these kids are kind of I think they're coming from families where their parents just either didn't want to deal or maybe they couldn't deal. I don't know, but I found it to be a little bit bizarre.
Like dumped, in a way.
Yeah, there were some kids like of famous parents. Maybe they were on tour all the time and things
Right.
like that. I won't name names, but basically there's that aspect of things.
Right.
And boarding school is very weird. I think it's like wildly overrated.
Yep.
My oldest son wanted to go to boarding school.
Really?
Wanted to.
He
To get
did,
away
and
from.
I think
yeah.
it was kind of like
get out of the
watching Dead Poets Society or something. Oh my God, this is amazing, boarding school. And my now
live in a bunkhouse
ex-wife
with your
also
friends.
went to boarding school, and she had a kind of nostalgic view of it.
But she grew up in the East Coast, correct?
Yes.
That's
so
a whole
she wanted
different
him to go
thing.
to an East Coast boarding school, and I said, listen, based on my experience, I don't think you're going to like it, but you do what you want. So we sent him to this fancy pants East Coast boarding school.
And
Well, I'm going to tell you, within like 2 weeks, he was like, Dad, I hate it here. It was in Connecticut. He goes, Dad, Connecticut is where dreams go to die.
Oh, heaven.
Oh, no, are you from Connecticut?
That's why I left.
Where
why I
dreams
left.
You're
come
alive.
from.
you're alive. You
Alive.
made it.
Dream, so.
Yeah.
But the
Dreams
West
don't all
Coast
die.
idea
I wish I
of
left
boarding
earlier.
school, it was, at least growing up, was like you were like about to go to juvie,
Yeah.
and then you went to boarding school.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there
The
is
East
that
Coast
strata.
thing is a whole
No,
different.
actually, there are some of the best boarding schools in the country are on the West Coast.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's some very good boarding schools like in Ojai, and I mean and I think they're better than the East Coast boarding schools because they're taking the good parts of East Coast boarding schools with the kind of dynamic thinking of California,
Oh.
and they're very good schools, but those days of the kind of delinquents getting sent, there are a
Right.
few of those still left, but not that many.
No.
It's just too expensive to be like, sending your kid to boarding school because he keeps screwing up.
Right.
It's
Right.
like, I just think in general everything's more expensive than when we grew
Well,
up.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why
it only
didn't
cost
you
me
like it?
1 penny to go to school
That's
for
right.
2 years.
College was about $45.
Why didn't you like it there?
Why
At
I
boarding
didn't?
school, yeah.
I didn't say I didn't like it.
Oh.
Why are you trying to cross-examine me?
No, I'm just
I
curious.
thought this
'cause
was
you,
an interview,
I
no
know
Wow.
interrogation.
you said they're great, so I didn't know.
So Joe Flanigan.
Hates children. Hates educators.
You don't have
loves
to
guns.
answer.
No, I actually, I didn't dislike boarding school. It was a weird adjustment. Culturally, a weird adjustment. So I'm coming from this place. It's kind of ranchy. My dad's from the East Coast and all this stuff, and we just grew up in a different vibe. And then I'm in this boarding school, and there's like a lot of LA kids, like Hollywood kids and stuff. And they have fancy things, and their parents drive Rolls Royces and stuff. And I was
Right.
like, wow, you guys have so much money. And what I realized is that it's just a different value system. And I had to fight my dad to just get me a graphite tennis racket. I was the last guy on the tennis team with a wooden racket. And he's like, what the hell you need that for?
You're on board,
Wooden
please,
rackets
with a
were
wooden
fine for
racket."
us for 200 years.
Don't make me doubles with Woody.
And they not only had the graphite rackets, they had all the fancy tennis outfits. They had everything.
Right.
And they even had what I didn't have. They had TV. They had MTV. They had these things. I literally was allowed to watch an hour or two of TV, and we only had 2 channels.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had
I grew up
nothing.
like that.
Yeah, so I didn't really grow up with television or film for that
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. Radio.
And that was weird. I felt like culturally so far behind. They would just say these things, and I'd be like, what? I didn't see music videos until way after everybody else.
Really?
I was way behind on that.
And
And then I became a total music nut.
Right.
Yeah.
You went through high school there?
Yeah. Well, there was a small interruption. I did get dismissed at one point for perhaps imbibing in some alcoholic beverages.
Because you're a teenager.
Well, it was an it's going to sound a little kind of nostalgic and Pollyannish here, but I did learn a great lesson. We were all caught, like 10 or 12 of us, We came back from off campus, and we dropped the girl off at the girls' dormitory. She got to the front door and threw up. So I was like, well, this is not going so well.
10 of us?
I think we're going to get caught.
She had shrimp.
Shrimp scampi. It doesn't sit well with her.
They poll in everybody in front of this disciplinary council, and each kid is like, were you drinking? Like, no, what are you talking about? Drinking? No. I thought that was sort of ridiculous. Of course they knew.
Right.
So they asked me, and I said, yeah, we were drinking. What's the point of like, pretending we weren't drinking?
You hear behind you.
This is like, so I just said, yeah. And it's really funny because my whole family was in the beer business, so we didn't view drinking as so bad.
Yeah,
Sure.
You're supposed to.
Nonetheless, I was dismissed with everybody else, but I was allowed to come back.
Oh, 'cause
So
you
I
were honest.
finished school there. And to me, I actually thought that was actually kind of a cool lesson, which is like, well, you were honest with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Take your spanking. Finish your homework.
yes.
But while you were there, you did a production of Streetcar. Was that the first?
Well, no, that was at Neighborhood Playhouse. Or was it? I don't know.
Your Wikipedia page.
Oh my God, I'm 175 years old, so let me just
Well,
think.
you did a play.
Yeah.
And did that?
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I was not a big thespian for a long time. And I actually got very shy. This is like a kind of a funny little angle on being an actor. For some reason, during high school, toward the end of high school, I got incredibly shy. I don't know why. And I incredibly self-conscious, and like I didn't want to ever be in front of a group or talk
Quiet.
or read. Then it carried on through college, and it kind of got worse. If I was in a college class and they said you had to read, I would be like, I'm out of here. Yeah, like I didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted to be in the back of the room and everything else, and I couldn't explain why. And finally, I got out of college, and it was starting to mess with me. Like it was affecting the choices I was making. And I said, I've got to get a handle on this. Kind of, it's like a snowball. It's just getting a bigger fear.
Right.
So I went to the Neighborhood Playhouse in order to just, therapeutically speaking, get over my shyness. That was it. Never had
That
any
was the
desire
goal.
to be an actor. Didn't even know anything about acting. Wasn't even sure what actors did.
Right.
And, you know, it's Meisner and it's all those guys, and they're tough. And you get up in front of a group and you do your scene. And most of the time it was like, you know, you're really bad at this. You should go back to Nebraska and, like, start farming corn again because you're never going to make it, kid. They were brutal. And people would cry and they would destroy people on stage. But Meisner and those guys really thought, I'm doing a good job for you. I'm actually saving you from years of pain. And in some ways, maybe he was right. I got up. I couldn't give a shit what he was going to say because I was just like, I just need to get through this and not have a cardiac arrest. That's all I want. And then I did it, and I was alive. I was like standing and breathing. I was like, oh, wow. I actually, there's no ambulance. I got through this.
You're present.
And then he's talking, and I'm not really listening. I hear him, and he's like, yeah, you know, you're really good at this, kid. You can actually make a living at it. And I was like looking behind me. I was like, is he talking to me? Because I was like, I'm not even here to be an actor. And then coming from him, that was kind of a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was not generous with his compliments. None
Right.
of those guys were at the Neighborhood Playhouse. And so I was like, holy crap. And I just started entertaining the idea. And it just evolved into this very weird thing. Took me a little while.
But before that, you were you interested in politics? I mean, you were writing. You were writing for publications in New York. And
You know how people start in their life and they're screwing around, and then as time goes on, they get increasingly serious about things.
Mm-hmm.
I was the opposite. I was a kid who was pretty damn serious. I had every summer I was doing jobs. I had internships everywhere. I was building my resume. By the time I was 20 years old, I was working as an advance man at the White House.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about.
And I'm like doing all this stuff until finally I was like, I really don't like any of the people I'm working with. They're horrible people. And
Politics
I'm not
isn't
really
awesome?
sure that this is for me. But I had grown up in that environment. My dad was in politics. My mom and dad met on a campaign. And so I just did this. And then I said, I want out. And that's when I realized that it just wasn't for me.
Right.
And I ended up doing that after I quit. It was a precipitous fall from grace,
Yeah.
according to my dad. It was like, what the hell? I mean, you're 20 years old, you're working in the White House, and you decide that you're going to wait tables and try to be an actor? He goes,
Well
"What
done,
the
kiddo."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it was interesting. Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
How did you find the neighborhood playhouse?
Great school.
How did you did someone recommend it to
Oh,
you? Did
yeah.
you just go pick it?
I can't quite remember.
Yeah. One of my favorite teachers went there. So.
Oh, yeah? Who?
Yeah. Robert Carnegie from.
Oh, okay.
Playhouse.
So, yeah, I've found that I was always one of these people like, oh, if you want to go into finance, go to Wall Street. If you want to go to Hollywood and be an actor, go to Hollywood. If you're going to study acting, get the best acting school. And Neighborhood Playhouse just would pop up as one of the best acting schools. And so that's what I did. After like 3 or 4 months, and it was very expensive. It was a full-time school.
Yeah.
I was like, how do you do this? You're supposed to be a bartender at night and go to acting school all day? Like, that is difficult. So I was like, I gotta go to L.A. And they were like, you're not ready to go to L.A. You need to study for 37 more years.
Exactly.
You know, and I was like, I can't afford to do that.
You've not done an Ibsen play.
And, but I understood what they were saying. Because I came out here and I was green. No doubt about it.
Sure.
But I kind of learned the hard way.
But I guess, I mean, you know, being told by someone early on that you can do this and make a living, you must have like a sense of yourself within that, as opposed to like the training being that for you is like, yeah, okay, I can do this.
Right. Well, it might sound even more bizarre because what I did is I would look at actors who are working, and I'm like, half of these guys are posers. They're full of shit. I'm watching and I go, that guy is full of shit and he's not even very good and he's working.
Yeah.
I go, I'm better than that. I didn't say, I'm not saying I was like Anthony Hopkins or anybody, but at least I can be authentic.
Right.
These guys are full of shit.
Yep.
And that's in my head. So when I would walk into an audition, especially the callbacks and the other, tests that you would do.
Right.
And, there were 10 guys reading for the role, and there would be like 25 people in the room.
Yeah.
And you walk into a place like this, and I was always like, I was very competitive. So I was like, I have a costume.
Yes.
And it was funny because I knew that they were nervous, and I was like, well, that's what I'm going to prey on. That I know that I can do this, and I know that, most of these guys here are full of shit.
Right.
So it was
I'm
good
not saying
that you
I'm great, but I'm not full of shit. And that's
Right.
that's the bottom line.
Right.
And it worked for a while. And it was great until, I was able to establish some resume.
Well, you got here, and you got one of the things that every young man, woman gets to L.A. and hears about and wants.
Connor's jealous.
I can't even tell you. I've talked about this a lot. The sort of holding deal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are wildly overrated. But yes, I think I had 3 or 4 of those things. And it was weird because I had this kind of famous manager guy that would facilitate these deals. Looking back on it, I wouldn't have done them.
Really?
No. Because they were paying me exclusively to stay at a network.
Yeah.
So they were like, hey, stay at NBC, here's $500,000, and we should be able to find you a show. Sometimes I wouldn't find you a show. So you're going a year, well, maybe 8 months off the air. And I don't think that that's necessarily good for you.
Right.
But back then it was a pilot process.
Yeah.
And I think I did 12 or 13 pilots or something. I did a lot of pilots.
Yeah.
And so very few of them get picked up.
Right.
And then the holding deal was like cash in the basket. Like, okay, awesome. And I got married and I started having kids and I was like, cash in hand is pretty nice.
It's not bad.
It's not a bad thing. And maybe I'll go for that as opposed to no money and hopefully a show gets picked up and it carries on.
Right.
So it may sound like a good deal, And there were times that it definitely, had it gone a different way, it would have been a good deal because I was involved with helping develop some projects, and it was really exciting.
Personally, they were.
It was crazy. I mean, here I am, scared to death to be on stage, and next thing I know, I'm getting paid a ton of money, and they're calling me into meetings, and all these writers and people want to meet with me because they know I have a deal, and they're like, "Well, you don't like it, we can change that." And I'm like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." Wow. And then I would go to the network and say, "This is a script I really like," and I'd say about 3 times those are the scripts that we did as a pilot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were you involved in the casting of those things and the
peripherally? You know, I would often I would have to have the love interest, and then there was chemistry reads and things like that, and I would give my 2 cents on that, and you know, well aware that ultimately they have the decision, but it was, yeah, I look back on that and I'm like, wow, those were the days. They really were different. Had one of those shows really hit, you know, it would have sent you off on a slightly different path. It probably would have been non-sci-fi.
Well, I don't remember how far I got, but I got a little far in the game with Sherman's March.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy crap. No, that was one I
That was
was
a great
involved
script.
with. It was a great script. And for those who don't know,
General Sherman.
all these failed pilots.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But Sherman's March was a great show about a guy who goes back and tries to, like, he goes to the South. He's an ad exec, gets sent to the South.
Yeah.
And it's about, you know, working things out. I mean, what part was it? Was
Sherman.
it? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, because they have to do this. They may have the person.
That's really interesting. So, you know, the other guy that they brought up before I grabbed the script and I said I really like it, because it was John. I can't remember the guy's. He's a great writer, and I did another show of his. Arnold Kopison was our producer. So Arnold brought this thing to me. He goes, "You like this?" And I go, "Yeah, it's great." He goes, "Let's get it to your guys at NBC, and let's see if they're interested." And that's when it. But they were looking at Patrick Fabian too.
Oh.
And Patrick, who spent time on Better Call Saul,
Yeah.
as like that lawyer.
Right.
Patrick's a great guy and a great actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. There was a list of probably like 5 to 8 guys that they would go to for shows, and weirdly enough, I was one of them. Every day I kept slapping myself in the face, going, "How did I go from a guy who couldn't stand up in front of a group to like suddenly doing this as a living?" It
Right.
just seemed so weird, and it only reaffirmed the idea that I guess if you do things you're a little scared of, your life gets a little more interesting.
And
So,
breathe into it.
yeah. So it was an
Well,
interesting
and don't
ride.
be a phony.
Or don't be full of shit.
Yeah.
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 It goes a long
Great
way.
mantra.
Yeah. Don't be full of shit.
Don't be full of shit. Or less full of shit.
Yeah.
Be less
Less
full
as
of
you-
shit.
At least you can.
Yeah.
So then, were you still operating under? I mean, it's basically the last of the contract players in a way.
You're absolutely right. I didn't ever really look at it that way, but you're right. I was one of the last of the contract players.
Yeah.
Where you're exclusive to a studio. They take care of you. They try to find stuff for you. They have their own PR machines, the whole bit. And yeah, those days are gone.
And let's be clear, the idea that you're making $500,000 sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
if you want to break
managers.
this down in terms of the way an actor has to pay out,
Yeah.
what you're looking at,
Yeah.
It's not
It's
that.
half of that.
at best,
Yeah. If,
You know.
if even, it's
40%.
half of that.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
40%.
You got managers and agents and lawyers and PR people. You got taxes.
SAG.
Yeah.
You got SAG.
Well, you learn early on to work as a corporation.
Yes.
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 And then you pay your agent 10%,
that.
manager 10%, lawyer / well, if you have a lawyer, I kept that away.
Me too.
But I did have a business manager. That's 5%.
Yeah.
The PR people I would do on a kind of case-by-case basis. I didn't really ever hire PR people.
Yeah.
I let the studios and networks kind of do that.
Well, sure, because they have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, so that's 25% just off the top, and that's before taxes. So
Right.
you're absolutely right.
So what you think you're getting?
Well, it's very interesting because there are people, you know, somebody in particular I know that will go unnamed who's making a gobsmacking amount of money. But when you break it down, it's shocking
Yeah.
how much goes out the back door. You're
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
oh, I can't believe they're paying you that much. And that's all you're taking home.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep your accountant.
It's well, Harrison Ford figured it out.
Yeah.
He just had a lawyer. Didn't
That's how
have
he would
any
deal with all
agents
of
and
it.
managers. He had a lawyer,
Yep.
which is pretty smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were
By the
you
way,
s-
these are all, luxuries. I mean, just to have all that, just to be in the process of trying to slim down your margins.
Sure.
Right.
Most actors don't even get to the point of being able to do that.
It's
So-
like when people say they don't want to win the lottery because then they have to pay taxes, and it's like, what are you talking?
Well, no, I
about?
mean, I think also there's something important about this that, I think that a lot of people think that, if you've been on a show or if you've had a deal like that.
Oh, you're
that-
instantly
that
a
all of a sudden,
millionaire.
because that happened, then you reach our age and you're living in some stupid mansion up in the hill. But the reality is that no, you're literally at best hoping for a middle class existence.
Especially in Los Angeles.
In Los
Where
Angeles in
to
particular.
park your car is $20.
I mean, hell, now we're not on strike, but we might be.
Yeah.
And
And it's even more insidious because
oh,
you're
God.
working, and I was lucky to work consistently for a while. You're like, oh, this is the way it is.
yeah.
This is the way it is, and then until you discover what a lull is,
Yeah.
then you're like, wow, I've made all the wrong decisions about money. This is not a salary. You don't have an average salary. You have money coming in and no money coming in, then money coming in and no money coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes the
And
no
it-
money is 6 months, 18
It's
months.
crazy.
It's crazy.
And I'm one of those guys that just couldn't care less about money. Don't want to
Same
think
here.
about it. I don't want to manage it. I don't want to look at it. Just want it to be there.
Exactly.
Okay? Just make sure when I turn around, it's there.
There it is.
And so
I like to pet it before I go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. There you are. Were you
Count it
still
over.
part of that environment when Stargate Atlantis came about?
In terms of money?
No, in terms of the hold, in terms of being.
Okay, so that was interesting because Stargate came along right at the end of. I was being held by USA Network for a pilot we did called Thought Crimes, which was a really good show. It was probably one of the best pilots I've done. And they had used the clause to extend the contract, which I've never, in all the 12 or 13 pilots I did, nobody extended it. By May or June, they would go like, all right, we're not doing it, you're free to go, or we're shooting it.
Right.
Suddenly these guys who were merging with NBC were like, well, we want you here. And so it went on for like a year and a half, and I wasn't able to work. And I was like, this is killing me. And we tried to figure out if we had any legal action against this or something. And during that time, these guys from Stargate came, and they even said, well, this is a show that's picked up already for 20, but wink, wink, nod, nod, we know it'll be 40 because we're going to do 2 years because we're already amortizing the whole thing and we got to pay for it, and we need to do minimum 2 seasons. And so it was really odd. My man, this is kind of boring.
No,
maybe.
no,
It's not-
this
It's not boring even a
Inside
Not
little
at all.
baseball? I never talk about this stuff.
Inside
It always
baseball
feels
is
like-
super fun.
This is great.
So they said, look, what do you think of this? And I go, well, what is it? And they said, it's a sci-fi TV show, and it has a huge following, and it's a spin-off of the show called Stargate. And MacGyver is the star of Stargate. And I was like, oh, wow. But sci-fi TV, I don't know that I am actually good enough. I may not be full of shit, but I don't know if I'm not
I
good.
don't know if I'm that good.
I'm serious. I was like, I always felt like Star Trek was so stiff and like, proper, and like it was Shakespeare in space. And I was like, I don't know that I could wear that tight outfit and be like, "Brr, brr, brr."
Right.
So I said,
Never has there been
That's
a
a
more
t-shirt.
clear description
That was great.
of much of Star Trek.
Oh, God.
I will never get cast on Star Trek now.
I love Star
I
Trek so
apologize
much.
to the producers of Star Trek who are considering me. But I basically, I said, I don't think I can do that type of stuff. And they go, no, it's not like Star Trek. It's very different. and it's less sci-fi than it is self-deprecating, and it's a group of guys in the military who go on these adventures through this wormhole and all this. But you can just do whatever you want with the character, and let's see.
Yeah.
And I go, really? Whatever I want? And they're like, yeah. So I did what I wanted, and they liked it. And so it all happened within like 48 hours. And they go, deal done, awesome. We'll have you come up to Vancouver. We'll start shooting at this time, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, wow,
Oh my
that's
God.
cool.
So
My
you-
agents at the time, and this was a big agency, which will go unnamed, they didn't really have much to do with it because it was my manager who brought it to me. And I said, well, hey, what's going on with Stargate? They go, we passed on that. It's just, it's not our thing. It's no good. You don't want to do that type of TV. We do better TV than that. And I was like, what are you talking about? Better TV. I'm married with kids, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
I go, better TV is TV that's on.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
That's the best kind.
I want to do TV that's running.
It's the
okay,
kind I gotta-
dude.
I've done
You
a
got
lot
me
of
on
things
my
that haven't gone
13th
anywhere.
Pilot.
Right.
I'm like done with this pilot nonsense.
Right.
And they go, well, we can call them and find out, whether they're interested. I go, interested? I already have an offer. Where are you guys?
Where have they been?
They had gotten so big, and they were so clueless at times that they weren't even paying attention.
Of what you were doing?
Yes.
We passed on it is the arrogant agent way of saying, oh, I don't
We
even know
never
what the
did.
fuck you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really was.
Yes.
So basically, when the time came to shoot it, and I went up there and I did all this stuff, the first season I would call them, and now they've always made pretty good money off me. I'm one of those just working horse actors. I
Right.
work all the time. They make money, and I call them to go, hey, can you get a movie set up or a play for hiatus? And I don't hear anything from them. I hear nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I called multiple times, and I know that they have back then they didn't have algorithms, but the algorithm would have been, guy is working,
Yes.
push him aside,
Right.
get the guys that aren't working we're collecting nice big checks from Joe. We don't need to service Joe anymore.
Right.
We just need to
We
collect
need to
his
add more
checks.
Joes to the pile.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's so weird because I don't sign contracts. I only agree to pay people that are doing their job. I'm very specific about that. So I just stopped paying the commission.
Ooh.
Wow, I got
Ring,
a phone
ring.
call in 24
Oh, my
hours.
Lord. Joe!
Oh, wow.
24 hours.
Yeah.
It's legal.
Yep.
Sure.
Joe, this is from legal, and you owe us money, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
I do.
oh, I do? How do I owe you money? And they were like, you owe us money. You have a contract. I go, oh, okay, cool. Just send me the contract.
God, I love
They
it.
didn't
I
have
love
a
producer
contract.
stories.
What?
They didn't have a contract.
You didn't
I go,
sign
you
one."
don't have a contract because I didn't sign one.
Yeah.
And I made it very clear when you guys came after me to sign me that I wasn't going to sign a contract because my experience is sometimes people stop working. And I want to be able to leave whenever I want. And that keeps everybody working.
Right.
And I'm true to my word. I will always pay if you're involved with a project. I just will. And you know that. So they go, well, no, this is not going to work, and you'll never work in this town, and that type of stuff. Like big threats.
Right.
Big threat.
Little
Now, this is
pressure.
where working in the White House really helped. Because I'm looking at this like...
I was going to say that earlier. It's a good thing you started in the White House.
Frumpy lawyer who's trying to threaten me, and I'm like, dude, you mean nothing to me. Like, literally, I know people to be scared of, and you're not one of them.
Right.
And, I was working for guys that go, oh, yeah, I hope you don't have, you may have a rough day, and that means the IRS shows up.
Exactly.
Those are the guys I was
Six
working
guys in
for. So, like,
suits.
and they never yell and scream. They were very quiet in the White House, the guys I worked for. These guys are screaming and yelling. They're trying to scare the crap out of me, and I'm not scared at all.
Right.
So I go all the way to mediation. I go all the way
Good
to
for you.
mediation. And they decided to go right to the trades. Front page of the trades.
Joe Flanigan.
The agency's suing Joe Flanigan for unpaid commission, which we thought was ridiculous because all you had to do is return the phone call
Exactly.
Yeah.
of
We
like,
wouldn't be
hey,
having
can you
this
get me
conversation.
something for hiatus?
Right.
And they wouldn't even do that. And so then what was more interesting is they actually pegged the number that I owed them and they didn't even know that I had renegotiated for 3 times the amount. So they were asking for like
Way less than they should have.
way less than they should have.
I had no idea
And
what you were
then
doing.
not only that, I paid like 10% on what they claimed I owed them on an amount that I was making a long time ago. And I was like,
God.
all right, I guess you guys aren't as smart as I thought you were. And I just thought it was my experience of like the whole machine trying to intimidate you.
Right.
And I'm a big believer in like artists and sticking up for artists. I mean, there's a mechanism in this town about just crushing people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing a TV series with one of my favorite actors, James Garner.
Oh, God.
Wow. Yeah.
I grew up watching Rockford Files.
yeah.
This guy's about the coolest guy.
It's
You mentioned anything.
If I could do anything,
close to Rockford Files.
it would be the reboot of Rockford Files.
Oh, me too.
I mean, hands down.
So one of the guys I grew up with worshiping was James Garner because of Rockford Files. One of the few TV shows like our family could watch together. And I thought, wow, this guy's really cool and all this stuff. And then the next thing I know, I'm doing a TV show with him. I was like, oh my God, all my dreams are coming true. Right. And,
It's all falling into place.
although it wasn't as exciting as Rockford Files because it was really about the Supreme Court. And he was the conservative Chief Justice, and I was his scheming clerk. And we were scheming behind the scenes to get our conservative agenda done and all this type of
Right.
stuff. Nonetheless, at first he was a little prickly, and basically he had been on set his whole life, so he knew. He was like, once you recognize that I'm the alpha dog, everything's going to be okay. And once he realized that, I was like, yeah, you'd be the alpha dog. That's all good. Then he softened up.
Sure.
You didn't have leading man syndrome disorder, where you're trying to out-alpha the old guy. or the
No, I
old-
didn't
old
even know
school
why
guy.
he was prickly because I was pretty far down on the call sheet. I wasn't even thinking leading man. I knew I wasn't leading man at all. And nonetheless, he and I became friends, and I would play golf with him on the weekends. He would play at the Bel Air Country Club with Mac Davis, if you don't know if you remember.
Oh, God, yeah.
And the two of them were like insane. They smoked and they drank and they screamed, and they're like, "Fuck you, Mac, you fucking liar!" And I was like, "Oh my God,
I love these guys.
And then the minute they were done, they were like, "Oh, all right, Mac, great seeing you. Love you, pal." And I was like, "Wow, 2 iconic people, right?"
Yeah.
Nonetheless, he told me a story that he was trying to renegotiate a contract, and I think it was at Universal for what was the cowboy TV show he did?
Maverick.
Maverick. And, here he is. He does all of his own stunts. This is back in the day when the protocols, when you were the star of an action adventure TV show, you gave your life to that
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I mean, your body
That's
and
why he
your
limped
life.
in the Rockford Files.
That is correct. And so he got the crap beat out of him in Maverick. Nonetheless, he asked for some more money, and they have a big problem with this for some reason because Lou Wasserman's running Universal, and he's like, no, I'm going to make a point. Now, he doesn't say he knows for a fact it's Lou Wasserman, but he basically says, I'm in the middle of these negotiations, and mysteriously, as I pull out of the Universal lot, I get pulled over by some Teamsters and get the crap kicked out of me. And I was like, wow. He goes, yeah. And it was pretty clear that he thought it was Lou Wasserman sending him a message. And he kind of stuck to his guns, and he was able to get a raise, but it was like a pretty frightening moment.
Well, when he took the ass beating and still was like, I would really still like a raise. If I was Lou Wasserman, I'd be like, okay,
Right.
you've earned it.
You're a tough guy.
You're tough enough.
Well, I think it may have been that because he was a
Also-
star.
yes.
And so to lose a star would also be a problem. I couldn't tell you the dynamics, and I'm giving you like my anecdotal version of the story, but
Right.
it was clear that that was back in the day when
My God.
there were elements of the mob that were like, come here, I don't know why I like you so much, James. Come here. You and I are going to be good friends. And so I just took that to heart, and I just thought, wow, that was interesting. But it did give me an idea in my head about what to stand up for when I went through this process. And these agents are asking for an insane amount of commission on a show they had nothing to do with, and not only didn't even know I had booked the show.
It's in your Wikipedia.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
And I think even all of that is incorrect. I should probably go back and correct it, but I don't know if I'm allowed to correct.
I think you
Anybody is.
Am I allowed to
Anybody
correct it?
can walk in and edit
I don't
your
think you
Wikipedia.
can edit your own. I don't know. It's all silly.
Yeah, I should probably do that.
Well, but it's in there.
Yeah.
And what happened
With my
with your deal? With
just,
the situation?
I paid 10 cents on the dollar. They walked away, and I walked away. I also had I put everything in escrow.
Did you?
I put everything in escrow just in case. I go.
You didn't
if for
have-
some reason they have some kind of little stickler. There was one aspect of it, and they realized they had no contract, and they claimed they had a verbal agreement. And I said, you got to prove that you have a verbal agreement. They didn't prove that, but they did prove that I had paid them commission.
In the past, yeah.
Yeah, and so there was payment history, and so that was an element that I had to deal with. But the lawyer said, look, if you go to a judge with what we have, they're like, yeah, you might even be able to get back everything that you paid them already. I just didn't want to do it. I had no desire to.
Well, in retrospect, do you feel like you took a hit from it?
I don't think so, because then I just kept working. But I don't. You know what?
You never know.
You never know.
You don't.
You never ever know. And so I could be woefully ignorant about it, and maybe it did have an impact. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, good question.
You were on the front page, though.
Front page. I mean, it wasn't the first time I was on the front page of the trades, but that was not why I wanted
That's the
to
way
be
you
on the
wanted
front
it
page.
to be. To circle back, so when you get to town, you don't have a great deal of experience.
No.
Right?
No.
And how did you feel about, look, acting in front of a camera, you have to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And what was that process like for
Well,
you?
I took it seriously. Like, I had great respect for it, and I took it seriously. And I knew there was so much that I had to learn. Mm-hmm. So I've been to a number of acting schools in L.A. I kept that going all the time. And what happened is like a lot of us, probably did a couple commercials.
Yeah.
That's how I got my SAG card. And it was the first commercial I got that I was able to get my union card was a Pepsi commercial with Cindy Crawford.
Not a bad start.
And I practiced
Lame.
that line pretty good, which is Pepsi, Cindy?
That sounds great.
And during that time, I was like, damn, I got it made, man.
That's right.
I'm giving a Pepsi to Cindy Crawford. My dreams are coming true again.
Hey, Mom.
Hey, Mom.
And the guy who did it liked me, and I think he had me do like 3 or 4 of those with Cindy Crawford. It's funny because I know Cindy, and I haven't even told her this.
Really?
It's really funny. I forget to. And
You should.
actually, I got to tell her.
Yeah.
Because I do run into her. And I've never sat and go, oh, you know what? But she'll remember
You should
the
just say
director
it. You should
a
just
lot.
say the line to her.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
She'll just be like, you're really weird,
Yeah,
Joe.
exactly. Joe, stop it.
But so I got my SAG card and I kept working, and then I was given more lines and I was getting more comfortable. And they go, oh, well, Joe's good with lines. So they were giving me dialogue heavy commercials. And then that led to bigger opportunities reading for. And you got to tell me why we call this legit. But we call legit TV and film.
Yeah.
And commercials like what? Not legit? I don't get it. Why do we say, oh, but he's doing legit?
We call them commercials.
I don't know why we call it legit.
I don't
But
either.
it was called legit. And that's
question.
why.
You're
and
legit
I-
agent, and you're commercial agent.
well, it's so weird, huh?
That is. It is.
Nonetheless, and then I remember I got various parts, but one of them, the big break was, it's really funny. Here I am saying these things. They bore the crap out of me, but I guess they interest some people. I
They
literally
do.
never talk about this.
No, they
stuff.
do.
Which is probably why I still have friends. Some people like in my neighborhood, my community, they find out I'm an actor. They're like, "You're an actor?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm an actor."
What's that
Because
like?
I just don't even talk about it.
Same
But
here.
Anyway, I read for this part, and it's for a miniseries that Danielle Steele has written. It was a novel called Family Album. and they're going to air this thing. This is in the era of miniseries, where miniseries are a big deal.
Yeah. Right.
And you only got 3 or 4 networks. And it's going to play opposite the World Series.
Oh.
So they're going to dump a ton of money into it. They're like, oh, yeah, men will watch the World Series, women will watch this. Then the World Series went on strike, too. But anyways, it was the part of Jacqueline Smith's, again, Charlie's Angels.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
Wow. Look at me.
Look
I'm
at you.
living my dream again. But
had your
I
poster
play
in my
her
room.
gay son.
Oh.
And no, I want to tell you, it's the most ungay character you're ever going to see. Because back then, I don't know that they even wanted anybody who even had elements of gayness,
Right.
if that's such a thing.
Right.
And so I'm really excited about it. This is a big job. I'm getting paid good money. I know it's big. And I call my dad. Yeah, I got this great part. Yeah, Jacqueline Smith, Charlie's Angels. He's like, yeah, and I play your son, and it's gonna go opposite World Series, and I'm in the closet, and I come out, and he's like, I hear the phone hit the table.
Oh shit.
So he goes, honey, your son's playing a gay guy on TV.
Oh my God.
Finally, it's your son.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's not our son. It's your
right,
son.
right.
Michael's playing a gay guy.
Circle the wagons.
That was funny. And apparently they had watched the show like this, and you know who my boyfriend in the thing was Joel Gretsch.
Really?
Yeah, it was funny. And Joel, I think the raciest was like me putting my hand on his shoulder.
Back in this.
But as it's happening, apparently my whole family's in the living room going like, no, don't touch it.
Oh, Lord.
So hilarious. And that part changed everything.
Really?
Well, it could change everything. I mean, suddenly I just was like given,
They were calling you.
yeah. And
It's funny that happens.
it was really interesting.
You
And
work, and then one thing, and suddenly your phone was
that was the thing that apparently everybody
Everyone
saw,
saw.
and they were like, oh, bring him here. And I was
Right.
like, wow, this is really amazing. And I didn't know what to expect. And by the way, I'd never been stopped on the street, ever. And
And this-
suddenly I'm getting stopped, and I'm like, oh. And you know me, I just engage in a conversation
Yeah,
for like
right.
20 minutes. Like, really? So, okay. And
What
where
kind
are
of
you
dog is
from?
that?
Yeah. Did you say you were getting me a coffee? Is that what I heard?
So it was interesting, and it was a great experience. And to be honest with you, all my experiences have been good. They really have. I can't think of an experience where I was like, what a miserable experience. This is what everybody said is so bad about the
Yeah.
business. I haven't had that.
I haven't had
amazing.
that much either.
You either?
No.
I mean,
Other than this show.
I had a few experiences that weren't great.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
but
so now-
I never shot the projects, but up to them, they were not great.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you get
So
it.
there are projects that
Yeah,
didn't fully happen.
They were all projects with me.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I was like, I'm going to take advantage of this whole situation.
And they were film and TV that just never got off the ground?
One of them shot, the other one I don't know. But I guess one of them, they asked, my role was to be a prostitute.
Right.
And I was like, that could be kind of fun. And
I read for that, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
read for
right?
all
It was
of
going to be fun. And the scene was fine. Like, there was no nudity. It was just like a banter. And I was like, this could be interesting. But then they asked me to,
Yes.
Yeah.
Do the next
After
thing,
they
the next
pulled
thing.
you in.
after they gave me the role,
it's
they
arty.
said, would you like
it's very
to, you're
artsy.
gonna
You
have
won't
to
have
be
clothes on,
naked.
but it's we're shooting in black and white.
Right. If you could take it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
So I said no.
Yeah.
But
And then it turned ugly.
well, no, that was just the ugly part.
Oh, okay.
It was just a bummer.
Right.
You know.
Being taken advantage of,
Yeah.
feeling taken advantage
Well, yeah, you gave me the role. I did a table read.
We're going to have to do a test shoot on your nudity
Right.
Thursday.
We're doing a chemistry.
It's just for like the
read.
coloring on the camera.
Yeah. And then there was another time where they asked me to go do research at like a sex club, and I was like, I'm good.
Oh my God.
research.
I had known the one of the producers.
Wow.
Oh, we'll go together.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
like,
It'll be cool. We'll go do research at a sex club.
we don't
Well,
have to.
you
We
know
don't
what?
have to put this on the
Sometimes-
show, but we can.
Sometimes you need an experience just to be smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I did have one very weird experience, actually. And I actually kind of laughed about it because I was able to like recover from it. But I had a development deal at Disney.
Cool.
They had a half-hour sitcom wasn't my deal. I don't really do half-hour sitcoms. I went in for the read. It was a test. They liked me. They said, "Good, we're gold. We're gold." It's ABC and Disney.
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Well, wow, this is weird. I'm like branching out into sitcoms, I guess. This is a multi-camera sitcom." And I said I had to wait 3 or 4 weeks for the table read. And during the time, I said, "Just send me the material. I know you guys are rewriting. Send me." No, we haven't rewritten anything. Everything's fine. Right up to the time of the table read. Do you have anything? No, I don't. I get down to the table read, and they hand me a page 1 rewrite.
Brand new script. Different
Oh, yeah.
show.
Page 1 rewrite.
Oh boy.
And I'm sitting there with all the Disney execs in this gigantic table. There must be about 50 of us. And I'm looking at this going, that son of a bitch.
Oh man.
And I found out, this guy, he really didn't want me. He never
messing with
wanted me.
you.
Disney wanted me, and he didn't want me. And this was his way to sabotage
Sure.
me. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And sure enough, after the read, because what could I do? In sitcom, you really have to prepare for it.
Right.
It's a timing thing. You got to know stuff. And I was clearly like not ready. I was like, I couldn't do this. And I tried to tell my manager, and he was like, what the hell is that? Sure enough, I was let go the next day, and he got the guy he wanted.
Sure.
Now, the pilot didn't go anywhere, but
That's
and then I went
irrelevant.
off to do another pilot.
Right.
But that really was like, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are sneaky as shit. Like,
Right.
you know.
Right.
I told the guys at Disney what had happened, and they were like, really? And I was like, yeah. But it doesn't even sound good when you're telling them that. You know, you just don't even want to be in that position.
No.
But it did make me realize that, like, okay, I got to stop being naive. You know, there are
Yeah.
multiple agendas here,
Right.
and you have to be careful. And then as time went on, I realized that you have to really stick to your guns. That was a lesson I think I continued to learn, which is you have so much input. You got executives telling you what to do. You got directors, writers, producers telling you what to do. Sometimes other actors are telling you what to do.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, you got to be careful about not listening to everybody.
That's good advice.
And with Sherman's March, the one you
Yeah.
were involved, or almost involved with, I got to tell you, I should have stuck to my guns. I didn't think the way they wanted me to do it was the right way to do it, and it didn't turn out well. It was
Right.
a great script that did not turn out well.
Right.
So by the time I got to Stargate, it was very funny. I had a specific choice. They seemed that MGM liked it. I got up there. I started shooting. I'm like halfway through shooting when I get a phone call from my manager going, you need to sit down. They're really pissed off at you. They don't like the choices you're making. They think you're not taking the material serious enough. And I said, what are you talking about? I am doing this exactly the way I did it.
And on the day, during the day, everything's fine.
On the day, but this is very Canadian too, which is they have a hard time
Confronting,
addressing an issue right there, and
Right.
they tend to not want to be confrontational. They think it's confrontational. It's not.
Right.
You just need to work with it.
Right.
But even if they had come up to, I said to my manager, I go, you know what? They can go find another guy then, I guess, because I'm not going to do this material 100% serious. Because this is the character, I want to strike this note. I want to be self-deprecating, and I wanted there to be a little wink of the eye to the audience, like I kind of know, like we're having fun,
Right.
Yeah.
and it's important I strike that note. I don't want to be earnest. I don't want to be like off the nose here, and so
I don't want to be a porn star doing like a drama.
yeah. So I basically stuck to my guns. There's a lot of tension about that, and then
This is the pilot.
this is the pilot.
Yeah.
And then it aired, and it broke like every cable record there was at the time.
And
For the highest cable record. No, and then the end, then everybody was like, oh yeah, no, we were very specific about what we wanted Joe to do. And
Sure.
I'm like, that's fine. I knew how it was going to work. If it didn't go well, I was going to get blamed. If it did go well, they were going to get credit. That's
Sure.
fine. I don't care.
Right.
I really don't care. But it was a good lesson in terms of sticking to my guns and going, I'm one of the original artists. Writers are the other original artists. There's a point where you have to have a certain level of confidence in the choices you make and the things you do. And you can't have everybody second guessing you all the time. And if you do, they will tear you apart.
Yeah.
So you got to stick to your guns. And what they actually want to buy is your confidence and certainty in the choices you're making.
Right. Absolutely.
So I was like, and after that, I never got asked again.
I got to tell you, I mean, I always admired, particularly, you told me a story one time when I was up there, and I'll preface this by saying when we were in our second year of Enterprise, which is around the time that you're going to renegotiate, you get your second year and you got that renegotiation period. I knew there was going to be no more money, but I just wanted lunch. I wanted lunch delivered to my trailer because we had to go to the commissary on Paramount. It's tough and it's hot out and you're wearing the uniform.
Oh,
but if you're not in prosthetics,
and the golf cart's not ready.
Yeah.
the golf, those weren't for us. And if you don't have prosthetics on, or if you haven't been called before crew call, you did not get lunch delivered. And I was like, this is baloney. All I want is lunch. They wouldn't give it to me. Now here's the difference. When you told me, it must have been during season 3 that you had a renegotiation and you were willing to walk away.
Yeah.
You were like, I got to take care of my family.
Right.
I need this, and this, and I'm willing to walk away. Now I wasn't willing to walk away over lunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you were, and I thought that was.
And that's when you really lost a lot of weight because you didn't eat lunch.
You didn't eat lunch.
I didn't. No, it was amazing. I ate air.
I got your lunch.
No, but I admired that.
No,
and
well, I don't know because had it gone a different way, I might have been the dumbest guy in the world. But I'll tell you why. I was flying back to LA every single weekend.
Yeah.
To see my wife and kids. I didn't miss one weekend in like 4 years. The first year I had them up there, and then she didn't want to be there. She was pregnant. She wanted to deliver the baby here. I bought a house, and I flew back and forth for 4 straight years. Didn't miss one weekend.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult. As you know, number one on the call sheet, you're in everything. And then some smart ass in the network is like, Joe needs to be in more scenes.
Oh, Lord.
And you're like, well, that's just some casual fingers on a keyboard, and it changes my life.
Right.
Then I am in every damn scene, whether I have dialogue or not.
Right.
And I'm like, damn, this is tough. And if I was lucky, I'd get out on a Friday night or Saturday morning, and then I had to be back Sunday afternoon because I couldn't take the last flights.
Right.
They were nervous about that. So basically, I was like, man, I pictured myself, that father that like, come home, my kid's had a tough day. I tuck him into bed. And he's like, Dad, at school, somebody teased me. I'm like, you tell that guy. You stick up. And I'm going to be like, that father.
Right.
And
Let's
then I'm
have a
like,
catch.
wow, I'm not that father. And my kids are calling, and I can't even talk to them.
Yeah.
Because I'm on set, and I don't have control of this. And I'm like, this, I guess this is what they mean, time is money.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, time is money. Time is money. And I am not going to be a pivotal part of my kids' upbringing. And I had already done 12 or 13 pilots. So I was like, when a pilot gets picked up and it's doing well, it's an obligation to make sure everybody does okay. And I just said, and I also knew how much Rick was making, on the other show. And
Right.
so I was so within the bounds of like normal. Nothing I was asking for was outrageous.
Number one on the
It
call
was-
sheet. You're the lead of the show.
Nothing was outrageous
Of that
at all.
franchise.
Right.
And
Right.
it was totally within reason, and it dragged on and on
Did
and
it?
on. Yeah, because I don't know why, but they really just wanted to make an issue out of it. And finally, I remember going in there, and he goes, what's this renegotiating stuff? And by the way, there's no point of having an adversarial relationship with the people you're working with.
Right.
Business is business. And I was like, well, he goes, well, we can always write you out of the show. I go, oh, well, okay. And then I came to him like a couple weeks later. I go, okay, well, let's just do that. Let's just write me out. Like,
Wow.
I don't want to be like this dragging on and stuff. So, and then they were like,
Fuck.
there was a big fuck. There was like, well, I wasn't serious.
Right, we can't do that.
I go, yeah, but you said I could, so I just want to take advantage of that particular offer you gave me, and then things got a little more testy. But I realized it wasn't really about me, and I didn't understand this. It was, I had a manager who was pretty tough, and they hated him,
Sure.
and so they just didn't want to give in to him. And finally, Robert came in to my trailer, our other producer who you know, And I like Robert. And he came in, he goes, we got to figure this out. Let's figure this out. And I said, look, I am not asking for more money so I can go buy a Ferrari and like do blow off some like prostitute's ass here. I'm not that guy. I'm married. I have kids. This is my 13th or 14th show, and it's doing well. And it would be a dereliction of duty as a father and a husband to not get paid more money under the circumstances. I have to. I'd be the biggest fool in the world. And you know that I'm not, this is not a greedy request at all. This is so within the bounds of reason. And he heard that. And once he heard that, he was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And then
Boom,
It was done.
I think he just needed to hear from me
Sure.
what my intentions were. And I go, look, I'm a father. I want to spend time with my kids, or I need to get paid more for my kids. They're going to be going to school. As you said,
Yeah, the
it's
sacrifice.
very hard to make money as an actor. And when you have the opportunity, you kind of have to make it. You have to get it and make it. And sometimes it puts you in a difficult position,
Yeah.
which is really unfortunate because it
is.
did not have to be that way. Our show made a ton of money.
Yeah.
And it was well within reason. As a producer, if you're asking me, and I got to look at the books, and I don't tell you why, but I don't know if that was legal, and I did see the books. And I said, look, as a producer, I would have gone across the board, everybody gets a 10 or 15% bump.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a 10. We're doing great, guys. And you're doing great, you're doing great. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
And people would be really grateful, and you'd be recognized for your work. And a lot of people just really want to be recognized and valued for their work. And
Yep.
some people will work for no money if you give them a feeling of value.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not getting paid for this podcast.
That's
he's
true.
made
No,
me
you're
feel,
not.
He's made me feel so good about it.
He is not.
Your
He
value.
just keeps blowing hot air up my ass.
Cotter was like, I convinced him we don't pay our guests.
We gave Joe a bowl of mixed nuts, and he ate it, but that's his payment.
That's
So he's
right.
got to
We,
finish the podcast.
Which we
It's the
took
show.
from the theater.
And I thought, there's a lesson there. There's a lesson there.
Sure.
And there's a lesson, and I was like, God, if I ever find myself in a position of managing people, and I remember listening to my dad, and my dad was a pretty successful executive, and he had a lot of employees, and he was very proud of the fact that he would go down to the floor of the brewery, and he knew people's names, and he said, you're doing a good job, keep it up, you're doing a good job,
Yeah.
Jack, how's the family, blah, that type of stuff. He said, you can't imagine how important that is. And it's so easy to get removed from this. And you can be on a lot of shows where you don't even see producers and writers.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so I really think that, there's something to be said for that. And if I ever find myself in a position, I just think I know. And I've worked on campaigns, and the greatest candidates I know are those guys.
Right.
And they can get people so worked out. People want to work for them because they make them feel good.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, yeah, the Kennedys were great at it. They
Yeah.
could get people so jazzed to work for them.
Sure.
But that's because they would recognize people and be like, thank you for your work. Thank you. Thank you. And that makes people feel really good.
Did you carry that over into being number one on the call sheet, and you being number one,
We
being
talk about this a lot.
yeah, being number one, it's an important role within the cast.
It is.
Set the
And
tone.
yeah, sets the tone for everyone. And did you carry
The
that?
first year, I found the schedule incredibly difficult. And I was a little bit blown away by the amount of hours I was doing.
Yeah.
And then trying to get to sleep and having young kids. And I just remember almost fainting one day at work. I didn't tell anybody. And I just remember just everything going black. And I was like, whoa. I just almost fainted. I was like, that's how tired I was.
Yeah.
And then I got shingles.
Oh.
I was so tired. And I was like, man, I'm so worn out. Oh. So the second year was just way better because I was like, okay, I know what I'm in for. I know the hours I'm in for, and now I'm going to have to fly to LA. So I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman was up there shooting X-Men, and he had a kid, and my kid were going to school, their first day of school. We became friends.
Together.
Yeah, it was their kid, Oscar's first day of school. My oldest son, Aiden's first day of school. And we became friends. And I was like, oh, you movie star people, you guys have it made. I was like, you shoot like 2 pages a
have
day.
no idea.
You go to your trailer and do all
pages a
this.
day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like your trainer comes and then your masseuse comes
Right.
and does all this stuff. And I said, I don't have time to work out. He goes, well, what's your schedule? I told him the schedule. I go, yeah, no, you have time. I go, what? I'd have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I'd have to have a gym downstairs. I'd have to work out of my gym and literally get up at 4:30 in the morning. He goes, yeah, you do. I go, well, you're nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, getting home at 11:30.
But this tells you a lot about Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, right.
Hugh Jackman is one of the most disciplined people I've ever met.
Yeah. He's a
So
machine.
I decided to do it. And I was waking up at 4:30 in the
Oh,
morning.
wow.
Did it for the
Inspired
whole
you.
year. Never felt better. Fell asleep like 9 o'clock on the dot, just out of sheer fatigue.
Right.
Woke up at 4:30 in the morning, crawled downstairs. I ended up putting gym equipment in there, work out, and then get picked up and go to work. And I was like, wow, I can do this.
I get it.
And then that's when I was like, okay, I can handle being number one on the call sheet now. Because before that, I was so tired. I was like, every second I had, I was like, I got to go to the trailer and lie down. Got to go to the trailer and lie down.
And
because
then learn 9
I'm on
pages
camera,
at some point.
And the dialogue wasn't as hard as just the sheer hours of standing
Yeah.
and everything else. And I was such an active dude. I was like hyperactive. So to not be working out,
Yeah.
it just threw me off.
Right.
And then that's the first time I realized, I go, okay, this is work. This is what work is like.
Right.
And, it gave me a lot of discipline, a lot of respect. When we had Jason come onto the show,
Season 2.
yeah, season 2, I was pretty sure that Jason was going to get just bulldozed by the amount of hours. He'd never really been on a show as a regular
Yeah.
in a consistent way. And granted, he didn't have a lot of dialogue.
No, he didn't.
Wasn't hired for the dialogue.
Sheppard.
Yeah. No.
I will say, and I think he'll probably say today that he learned a lot, just those hours, and
Right.
just putting it in and showing that guy. I'm telling you, he could literally sometimes. He and I lived together for like the last 3.5 years.
Right.
At the hotel, I had a 2-bedroom
The old
place,
Sutton place.
and he would roll in sometimes at 5 in the morning and just turn right around and go to work. And I was like,
Wow.
No.
damn.
Well,
You're good.
Yeah.
And he's such a great guy too that you're always rooting for him. But
Right.
I was like, man, I thought at first he was going to annihilate himself,
Right.
just self-destruct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Implode.
then one day he rolls in and is like extra gnarly the night before. And I go, and he's still drunk.
Right.
He's still drunk. And I'm like, dude, are you good? He goes, I'm motherfucking Jason Momoa. And then I swear to God, that point I go, that motherfucker's going to be so successful. I know he is. I just knew it. I was
Yeah.
like, man, that guy is going to crush it.
The Nick Nolte school of
Yeah.
Oh,
And he
my-
still to this day impresses me with he can shoot all day and jump on a plane.
really.
Yeah, it's that. We've done a lot of conventions together, and sometimes he's like, "No, Joji, we're gonna fly at 6 a.m." Like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna fly to Australia and go right off the plane and go to work. I want to be there a day early.
Right, exactly. But acclimate.
Yeah.
I've gone back to taking naps.
So that energy preservation made all the difference, and you're also deprived of sunlight in Vancouver.
You sure are.
So between the sunlight not there and no exercise, that I found the first year pretty challenging. And I wouldn't be surprised if a number of people said, well, number one is like slagging. He's like dragging ass. Because I think I was.
In season 1.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about things. And,
Yeah.
And,
Well, you went
I
on
made
to
my mistakes, and I have a lot of respect for, I was always work on time and things like that. But I
Right.
mean, like, I learned a lot, and now that I know, I would do things a little differently that first year.
you also wrote.
I wrote a couple episodes,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Did you direct it all?
I really wanted to direct.
Yeah.
And we came to an agreement where I would direct 2 or 3 episodes a year. And for some reason, they just never came through with it. And they claimed that, which I didn't understand because it was part of our renegotiation. And
That it would happen?
They said that to have me direct would be the loss of some kind of a tax rebate because they were all
'cause you're not
Canadian
Canadian
directors.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
That's a real thing.
But I always had an answer to everything because I had been in Canada long enough where I was like, I can be a resident. You know,
Right.
that created a whole nother set of problems. But well, it did for taxes and all sorts of weird stuff. But I was like, look, I really want to walk off this show with some directing skills because we know how things go acting wise.
Right.
So that was a regret that I did not get a direct, and a lot of those guys on SG1 did get a direct.
Right.
And look what a different life Amanda is living.
Oh,
Amanda only directs.
Yeah, one of the biggest
and
directors in
that
Canada.
was, granted they did 10 years and we only did 5, so there was a little more leeway.
But just having that skill set.
I'm telling you,
You know,
I mean,
it-
imagine Amanda never have gotten the opportunity. She may never have been able to direct.
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
that was.
I mean, we never got it on our show specifically. The other ones did, and I then shadowed Robbie Duncan McNeil when he was doing Chuck, and had a real sit down with him. And I was like, "So how does this look? I mean, I didn't get a chance to direct on Enterprise. How long is it going to take me to actually be able to do this?" And he
Outside the show.
Outside the show.
Yeah.
And he was
Because,
like,
you know, it's not going to happen.
"It's not.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. If it's going to happen, you're going to have to sacrifice everything that you've got going now. And you're going to have to give over to that. You're not going to make any money."
Yeah.
And I was like,
And I was told by my American directing friends, they go, you need to come off that show with at least 4 directable hours, and we could probably, find work for you. But
Right.
you need a minimum of 4 hours you've directed
Right.
to be just considered for another
Anything.
show.
yeah.
And a lot of actors are good directors
Yeah.
because, they know how to work with actors and
Yeah.
stuff. But TV directors are a very specific animal.
They are.
And often they are more about scheduling and moving equipment
Yeah.
sometimes than they are about directing,
Absolutely.
because Connor's played this character for 4 years. He knows what he's doing. I don't want to sit here and tell him what to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I've seen them get bit by a few actors when they make a directing suggestion.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
The first series I did, I watched this with a couple actors bite the director, and that director doesn't come back.
Yeah.
So they're really nervous about directing actors who are series regulars.
yeah, who are established in the role.
Right.
And,
Yeah,
And that's why they really come down on the guest stars. And they're like,
Well, maybe you're right.
I think
You
so.
know, that's a
I
good
mean,
question.
it's literally like, I've been guest starring a lot in my career, and you'll see, you'll be in a scene, and I'll have an idea. I don't say anything unless I feel comfortable, but they'll be like, "Oh God, Sally, you're fantastic, and Jim, you're great, and Connor, I need you to do this, this, and this," and you go like, "Okay,
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
because they're fine.
You're like,
Doesn't matter what they're doing."
strong choice.
Yeah,
Wrong
exactly.
choice.
Let's
Stargate.
jump into, well, I hate to say this. I remember going to do the show and going out to dinner with you and Jason, and and we, I don't know if you remember this, but we'd been canceled. Our show was over, and I remember saying at dinner to both of you, I was like, "So we did about 100 episodes, and at the end of this season, you guys are going to be about 100 episodes."
I have very specific memories. Of
Do you?
this.
I was like, do you have any
well,
thoughts that this?
Yeah.
Are you guys good?
Well, it's really funny because if I remember it correctly, and maybe there's some haziness here, I thought we were in the bar downstairs with the Sutton place. And I think the topic came up, and I, out of my just sheer hubris, I had just been to Comic-Con anyway, where I wasn't told there was even talk about not going to a 6th season.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like feeling pretty certain, and I was like, "No, they can't afford to like sink the mothership here. We're the only one on." And when was the last time they spun a series off by canceling the mothership? I go, they've never done that. They'll never do that. And you, in this kind of oddly prescient kind of comment, go, "Are you sure about that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, what that would be suicide." Remember, your franchise had other shows on. So it wasn't like Stargate. I think Star Trek had this franchise thing that they could turn on and off, where we didn't quite have that. And so I was like, there's no way they would cancel my show. They might do it after a year of a spinoff and then cancel me out and then do this. But I'd never thought they would cancel our show in order to do a new spinoff.
Right.
And that's when I was like, looking back on it, I'm like, how did you know that?
Because it was back in the day, if you had 100 episodes, you were a syndication package. So like when we went the 4 years, you know, if you count the pilot episode, we were 100, but it was, I guess, 99 episodes. But if you had that number, you could syndicate it. And I always said, if we went 5 years, would go to 7.
Yeah.
But the likelihood that they may just cut bait and have that syndication package that they could sell, which was the same number you guys had at the end of 5 years, that was my thinking.
Yeah. And it's weird because I hate to say this, you're wrong, but you're right. You were right that they were going to cancel it, but you're wrong because we were syndicated after the first year. We were syndicated right away. And also, we come with an additional 200 hours of Stargate SG-1. So when they go to sell these things, they are selling a huge amount of hours of television. So,
they're
and we
selling
were always
Stargate as a
packaged
whole
together.
instead of as an individual.
So I looked at it and I was like, I know what you were saying, because I always thought in my head too, 100 episodes.
Yeah.
In fact, that was the next time I was on the front page of the trades. It was the 100th episode.
Right.
Big front page spread. There we are. Congratulations on 100 episodes. And, but I don't know that that was it. This is my understanding, is that MGM is going bankrupt.
They're imploding.
They really are imploding. Like
Yeah.
you were calling MGM, like literally, like maybe a janitor would pick up the phone,
Right.
and you'd hear the vacuum in the back. You're like, "Who do you want?" Literally nobody there. It's
Right.
all going to hell, and we're making hundreds of millions of dollars in net profit a year on our show. So I know this. So I'm thinking, well, nobody's going to cancel a show that is making huge amounts of net profit.
Right.
That would be suicide. The problem is that money was going right out the door to pay for other things at MGM, and they did not have the money.
They already had the gun to their head.
Squirting
Their own-
water on the dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, these guys in Texas who bought MGM for about $5 billion already couldn't even get a $3 billion asking price. So they were like, oh my God, we're taking a bath.
Yeah.
This thing, they sold us on this idea that the MGM library is really valuable. Well, not really.
Not as much.
Streaming comes in, all this stuff.
Right.
And a library is no good unless you're pumping new material into
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So these guys were like panicked, and they're like, we need to get the price of MGM up and then dump it. How are we going to do that? A new movie and a new TV show. And I think we were the only TV show on the air, maybe. There's one other one with Mandy Patinkin that they were doing, but it wasn't doing that well. We're the only TV show. And then they had the
MGM.
Bond
For
franchise.
MGM, yeah.
For MGM.
Right.
And I was like, all right. And they basically had to make a choice, from my understanding, to do one show or another. And the way was, well, we can do an existing show, which doesn't have any bang to it, or we could try a new show, and it looks like we're a dynamic studio creating new material, and then the new show may blow up, and let's tweak it so it's like a little more serious, and it shows that we're edgy, and I think that was the play. And I just couldn't believe it after I heard that we were canceled. And we were told, like, we're the last people told for some reason.
Yeah, of course.
I called up Charlie Cohen, who ran MGM. And I said, Charlie, what are you doing, dude?
Right.
What are you doing? He goes, well, this is what we got to do. And I go, dude, what if that show fails? You've killed a franchise. I go, you need to at least have us on the air a year to shepherd in a new show.
Right.
That's a huge risk. He goes, well, you may be right, and I hope you're not, but right now those are the choices we have to make. And I go, is there anything I can do to convince you otherwise? He goes, I appreciate your passion, but there's just nothing that you're going to be able to do that's going to change the needle. And I'm like, that's when you're like, yeah, I'm just an actor.
Yeah,
I'm just an actor. I can voice my thing. And the only reason they're listening to me is because I'm number one on the call sheet.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do anything about what I'm saying.
Reminding you that you're this on the totem pole, you're on the bottom.
And he was a very decent guy. He wasn't trying to make me feel small at all.
Sure.
But he also was like, your opinion, your opinion doesn't count. And I know it doesn't count. And I'm not even trying to make you feel bad about it.
Right.
These are huge decisions being made at the top floor. And, they're outside of our pay grade.
Right.
And so I was like, all right. And there you go. And you have a new show. And that has its own set of dynamics. And I'm pretty sure that most people look back going, that was a bad choice. Because it did bury the franchise.
Well, it did. Yeah, it did the exact thing that you said it was going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I took no satisfaction in that at all.
Sure.
If Atlantis had carried on another season or two, I think you're right. It would have carried it through.
It might have, but they would have had to have addressed this huge tonal difference.
Yeah.
And so this is, fans will like this because we're shooting Atlantis. Atlantis is doing really well. We're doing better than Battlestar. When you count the money, we're definitely doing better than Battlestar. Battlestar, however, is a great show that gets a lot of critical accolades.
Yeah.
Peabody.
Absolutely.
Right.
There are some people working on the show that don't like that. They're like, I've been slaving at these Stargates and we haven't gotten the critical accolades. I get, okay, we're making money, whatever. Wouldn't it be nice to be recognized for the work we're doing? And I'm going to be honest with you. I think Stargate has always been underappreciated by critics.
I would
agree. A way better show than critics claim.
It's a great show.
And anybody who watches it gets addicted to it.
Yeah.
So I don't even need to defend the show, but my point is I understood where they were coming from. And Battlestar shot across the street.
Yeah.
Did it really?
Oh, yeah. And I'm friends with all those guys. And even they would be like, hey, what's the name of your show again? I'd be like, it's Stargate. And they're like, oh, yeah, right. It has a pretty good following, right? They didn't understand how big we were.
Right.
We were a bigger show all over the globe than Battlestar. Don't get me wrong. Battlestar was a great show. They wanted a tonal change. They got a tonal change. They were like, we're going to do Battlestar. We're going to do a Battlestar-like show. We're going to get rid of the kind of silliness and self-deprecation that marked SG-1 in Atlantis. And we're going to get into this nitty, dark, kind of gritty story. And then we'll be, I think, we'll be seen as serious writers, producers, directors that are making
Award eligible.
Award eligible.
As a huge fan of both franchises,
Yeah.
There was even a production emulation going on between SGU and Battlestar. Not just tonal, but the way they shot the show was very similar to the way
They
Battlestar
went
was shooting
back to
at the time.
handheld everything.
Yeah,
Right.
And that
whole
matte focus,
thing. Yeah.
rack focus
Yeah.
thing.
That whole thing. And I remember watching the show. This is actually kind of funny because I do remember watching the show, and some people were like, oh, you're just upset and you don't want to see Universe do well. Nothing could be further from the truth. I had nothing against any of those guys. They're all great actors. David Blue, Robert Carlyle, they're all great actors. I want them to do well.
Right.
But we were pitched against each other. And for some reason, I was at these conventions, and they were like, why? I was hearing how angry the people on Universe were at us for not supporting Universe. And I was like, well, I don't know that that's my job. The fans will support it or they won't support it. I don't get it. That's not my job.
Right.
And I will say that I did try to watch it. And I couldn't really watch it because I was like, I can't believe they replaced us for this. This is a different...
Oh, that's hard. That's personal.
This is a different show.
Yeah.
It's not that there wasn't quality to it. But I was like, I walked away going, I feel like everybody's stuck on a ship screaming at each other. And everything's always dark and gritty, and there's a lot of yelling.
Reinventing a wheel that actually already worked.
Yeah, but I also understand their desire to try to tweak it
Yeah.
and change it. I get all of it.
Sure.
I just was like, I don't think it was a good idea. And I think somehow that got out that I had that opinion. And there was some tension between me and the producers. It's the same producers and writers that did SG1 and Atlantis. So the idea that you're going to do something totally different was kind of interesting. I was
Right.
like, I think you need to change out everything and everybody if you really want to do something totally different. These guys have proven themselves to be so good. They've taken something that was nobody expected to do well,
Right.
and they have planted it all over the world, and people all over the world love this
Love it.
thing.
Right.
They've got to know they have really great skills, and they should stick to them, and we should go this direction. And I would, I'd be really curious if we got any of the showrunners and writers and producers on this show and ask them, like, what would you do differently? Would you keep that? Because that was a mistake.
Yeah.
It was a mistake. And,
But was it a mistake driven by the implosion of MGM?
absolutely a big part of it.
Yeah.
I think if if we had enough money, they would just be like, oh, cool, well, we're making money. We'll keep that show going. That's making money. Or maybe we'll just name this a slightly different thing, and maybe there'll be some crossover. There are ways that they could have split, the hair and or skin the
If
cat
they weren't
or whatever
imploding,
these
they
things.
could have carried on in both directions. They could have kept the financially successful show and gone after awards considerations and to be taken seriously with the new show.
I agree.
Or
with
even
that.
just a tonal
Had to
shift.
worry
I mean,
about
that's fine. Want to
You
make a tonal
can-
shift? Fine.
Well, even our show was a tonal shift.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, they say, who said it? I thought this was a good description. SG1 is Superman, Atlantis is Batman. And there is an aspect to that. We are darker, and we're a little more serious than SG1. We were
Right.
a little less kind of goofy and slapstick. We were kind of just like, we had our moments.
Right.
But in general, and that was like really like a really important thing for me. And now we're getting into some possibly pretty intimate information that I think is not going to reflect badly on anybody. I wouldn't bring it up. But I do remember a very specific tension that Brad Wright had with SG1. And he believed that Rick never took the material seriously.
Oh.
And everything was like, sometimes Rick would just be like,
Richard Dean Anderson.
yeah, and he would just like take out a whole speech. I'm like, I can say this.
Right.
And I think, Brad and Robert are working really hard on the show, and I think they were like, this is frustrating. And the fucking planet's blowing up, and Rick is like, hey, do we have any coffee? And that type of thing. He was
Yeah.
like,
Right.
And I think that kind of made them angry. It worked fine for SG1, and they knew that. But they were like, if we're going to do a new show, we want the stakes to be real. So the thing, and that was a conversation I had after they said, we feel like you're not taking the show seriously. I go, you're wrong. Relook at everything.
Right.
I am taking the stakes 100% seriously. I'm never joking about the stakes. I'm joking about other things, but never the stakes in the show.
Right.
The plot is the plot, and I don't dismiss the plot ever.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, you're right. You're right. This is the self-deprecation, but not the plot lines.
Right.
And not the story. And to me, that was important to have that balance. Because I was like, I get it. The show's going to be better, I think, if we take the stakes.
Danger is danger.
Well, then you have actors that are taking the stakes seriously. And then if you got one actor who's not,
It messes
you're
the whole
not
thing
playing
up.
on the team.
No,
man.
you're not.
You're not like playing on the team. And
Right.
I was like, I don't want to be that guy who's like obstinate and be like, I'm going to set a different tone.
Right.
So I think we struck a pretty good balance on Atlantis. I think
Oh,
we
I
did.
think so.
Yeah, I loved Atlantis. It's so good. Not just because you were on it, but because it was so great. The whole thing. It's so hard to make these shows good. So when there are good shows, you like, how did
I
they?
think a lot of sci-fi fans really missed those
Yeah.
programming nights of Battlestar and SG-1 Atlantis
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff. And then what I loved about the show was they were true sci-fi fans. Those writers, directors, producers were real sci-fi fans, and they had watched all your stuff. The minute somebody came off a show like Jewel,
Yeah.
or you,
Right.
get them.
Yeah.
They loved you guys. They were like, get them, bring
Yeah.
them in. Mm-hmm. It's like we're paying homage to all the sci-fi.
Right,
And
Picardo.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think your character has. We're not going to call it the Enterprise. Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, or I think I called Jason Chewy once or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so I love it. To me, that was the very clever part of the show, was the self-referential aspect to it.
Right.
Which is like, yeah, we're doing a sci-fi show. Watch this.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and so I like that aspect of things. And you guys brought in, how many people from Star Trek did we get? We got you and Robert.
Oh, God, at least from our show alone,
John
you
Billingsley.
had me, Billingsley, Jolene, Blaylock. She did one. I think that's it from our show. We had Picardo. You had a bunch.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think your character was only supposed to be like one episode.
It was.
Yeah.
And I remember
Yeah.
shooting it, and about halfway through, I could see the people talking in the corner, and I was like, I think they kind of want to do more of this. And
I guess
"What-"
I'm coming back
I
to
even said,
Vancouver.
halfway through, what do you guys think of this storyline? Oh, you're coming back. And I was like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they asked me too.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, yeah.
I mean,
What
look,
do you think of Trenier?
I was like, listen, do not give him lunch. That little fucker, give him lunch.
even
Next
if he's
thing
in
you know, I want
prosthetics,
this and this and that.
he's in between, he's in before crew call. If you give him lunch, he's going to ask for the moon.
I love it.
Hey, goddamn.
Well, we should go to fan questions.
Sure, let's
Yeah.
do it. All right.
What do you
I
think
mean, like
of
I could eat
Trenier?
lunch anyway with all those teeth. And
Oh,
I mean, I remember actually one time, it might have been that dinner we went to, and I was all, gooped up in my makeup and stuff. And I think I walked up to you and I was like, hey, so listen, when are we getting together? You were like, dude, I can't even talk to you when you're in that makeup. But this is
Did
not.
I say that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm such an idiot. But how true is it?
It's true, yeah.
But what I learned from watching you was what a good sport you were and how professional you were, because I know what it's like to come off a show as a regular and show up as a guest star. And you just have to swallow that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not easy because you're used to polishing a character, and then you show up as a guest and they're like, yeah, whatever, kid.
Yeah.
Just
right.
don't make trouble. Just
Exactly.
hit the mark and do your lines.
Yeah, don't knock into the furniture.
And so I really thought that you came in and added this whole thing, and then you also got to work with Rachel.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
not such a bad person to work with.
Not really. And to fight with Jason, which was always terrifying.
That's true.
'Cause Bam Bam,
you did
I mean, my
play
God.
one of the great villains on the show.
Yeah. I mean, I like
How much fun are villains?
Oh my God! Also coming off like the good old Southern boy from, Star Trek, and being like the
Oh my
all-American
God,
guy,
dude,
then
you
coming
were,
in and then like
you were pretty vanilla. You were like the dude.
Yeah.
Who was there's nothing bad in his history.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on
when
in
you say
here.
Atlantis, I think of the swagger, the Han Solo swagger, and Michael. Those are the two characters that pop up first, even with
Really
all the
smart
other good
thing to
stuff
say
going on.
when we're on a show together.
Well, you're sitting.
That's right.
I love that.
Producer.
what do we got?
All right. Peter Casimir from Patreon, first time caller. Hi, Peter. Really looking forward to this episode. Loved Joe on Atlantis. We've heard some stories about how DS9 was sort of the stepchild compared to TNG. Was Atlantis treated or received the same way compared to SG1?
Fascinating. I had done all these shows, and we had aired the first episode. It did really well. But then they were like, well, we're taking you down to Comic-Con. And I go, well, but the first episode airs Thursday, and they want us down to Comic-Con on Saturday. I go, that's pretty arrogant and precocious. Like, what? And do what?
Right.
Walk into an empty room and like, come on, give me a break. Like, you really want us down there? Like, yeah, we really want you down there. We fly down there and walk into this room, and it is packed. There must be
Really?
like 5,000 people, wall to
Oh,
wall,
wow.
clapping. And I was like, oh, crap. We just got all of SG1's fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Wow.
just came over and said, cool, we weren't sure, but now we are. Thank you.
Yes.
And I was like, I've never had a built-in fan base just walk over and be like, cool, we
Yeah.
got you. And I was like, oh my God.
That's
I've
amazing.
done so many shows. You got to build. And they just came over wholesale. That's why I was always so grateful to SG1. They never forgot
Yeah.
who we were, who they are. And so we got lucky, and there was a lot of skepticism at first. There was this huge skepticism about me. I heard this question so much. Can you fill the shoes of Jack O'Neill?
Oh, yeah. We got about 50 of those.
And then half the time I was like, who? I'd love to fuck with it. I just know I love fucking with people. And I just was like, I specifically did not watch SG1.
You didn't?
No. Because I was really nervous about watching it and changing my performance.
Oh, yeah, letting
So it
affect
wasn't
you.
until like 7 or 8 episodes into shooting that I like popped in a couple SG1s and I was like, cool, I like it.
Right.
And I was really glad I didn't watch it because I was like, yeah, but I want to do something a little different.
Right.
But I give Rick huge credit. I don't know that show would have ever stuck
I agree
without
with
this incredible incongruity of a character.
Yeah.
He was the most incongruous character. He's doing things, and I'm like, what is he doing?
Right.
But you can't stop watching. And I'm like, well, you're doing something, and you're surprising me. And the show is much more clever than I kind of was expecting.
Yeah.
Right.
And it may be kind of bizarre at times, like some of the choices, but I'm like, yeah, but that makes it really memorable.
Right.
And I don't think that show would have done well had it not been for Rick and not been the choices he made. He laid the groundwork, as far as I'm concerned. Because you look at the movie, and
Oh, it's so
Kurt
different.
Russell
Yeah.
played it right on the nose.
Yeah, he did.
And I
Hard-ass
was like,
Colonel.
if we had a guy like that, I think we would have done okay.
Right.
The show would have done okay. Maybe it done it, maybe better. But I don't know that it would have stuck out.
Right.
Rick comes in and does something that's so strange that I think everybody was like, what's going on here? Hey, honey, come over here and watch it.
Right.
What is he doing? And then
Is this
I was
funny?
like, wow. And it took a certain level of confidence in his choices, again.
Sure.
And he stuck with it. And I think he helped build that fan base.
I agree.
Like, 100% credit. I give him all the credit for
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah. And the writers, of course. I'm not trying to downplay that at all. So anyway.
Okay, next question. Alan Murataki Fujikura from Patreon asks, if given the opportunity to show off your talents in a theatrical production, which play and specific role would you aspire to perform in, and why?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I guess, is there a play you want to do?
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
God, there's a lot of Mammoth plays. I want to do.
How fun would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like playing like a big dark character.
Yeah.
We just did The Odd Couple.
Oh my God.
Connor
Yeah.
and
They
Dom.
were
On
great.
at our live event. Yeah.
You guys?
No, me and Dom.
Yeah.
Which is perfect.
Oh, that is funny
Yeah.
because I grew up watching The Odd Couple too, and I watched Jack Klugman's last performance. He had throat cancer.
Yeah.
And that was their last performance. They did it for charity.
Of The Odd Couple.
Yeah, and I was at the neighborhood playhouse. They bring us there as a school, and he gets on stage, and I was like, oh man, I feel so bad for him. And then pretty soon I'm like, and then I just forget everything. The
Right.
guy's so good.
Yeah.
Don't remember any voice problem.
Sure.
It all goes into the perfect thing, and the two of them are genius. And also, here's an actor who's losing his voice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's like a pianist losing his fingers. It's just incredible how he's getting through this. And I've never seen anything like it. I was so touched by it. It was like a standing ovation forever.
Oh man.
And that was the last time he was on stage. And it was pretty impressive.
Wow.
He had actually had to learn. He'd lost. I don't know how many vocal cords you do have, but he only had like a couple left. And he had two.
You only have two.
You only have two.
You only have two.
Oh,
well
so
then
I only had one.
Well, they only had half of one, and he had to relearn how to make sound.
Yeah. And there's very little you can do with damaged vocal cords.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Bobby Kennedy was running for president. I actually know him. And, he talks like this. I don't know if you've
yeah.
actually heard him.
I heard him
yet.
on Joe Rogan.
And
I read an article
it's
about it
gotten
the other day.
better. He had a surgery in
Yeah.
Japan to improve it, and it's a little better.
Yeah.
But, it's a struggle when
It's still
people
tough.
have like a voice thing. It can create a wall.
Yeah. And he definitely has
So,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a come kind of congenital thing. Like a couple of people in the family have it. So it's not just him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it was a COVID thing that affected that. No, but maybe I'm wrong.
He does say that, this is where he and I disagree, but he does say that there was a vaccine early on, a long time ago, that may have caused a problem. But he had that problem long before.
He said that. Yeah. Let's skip Kelly.
Okay.
Let's do Slab Dragon.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you this actually. Slab Dragon from Instagram asks, what was it like working on General Hospital?
Well,
We've talked about this.
we did. You and I had a long talk
Yeah.
about this, and I nothing but respect for those actors and everybody. It's incredible. They're shooting 110 pages a day.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And I've never in my life stepped on set and heard action and thought, I have no idea if this is going to work. Because I'd have to, I think I had 40 pages of dialogue one day, I counted. And I'm like, I can't, and I do give myself credit for being pretty good with dialogue. I can memorize about a page a minute usually, but that's if I only have 5 or 6 pages.
Right.
I was going, oh my God, this is insane.
Of real
And
dialogue.
I'm only going to be able to memorize this amount at a time. I can't make room for that other 10 pages. So I had to block it out. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember driving to work from Malibu all the way into downtown LA. And I just had myself, I had a tape of me doing the dialogue, and I would listen to it over and over and over. And I would just drive to work going, I don't know if I remember everything. And then I would get to work, and the girl that I'm working with, Nancy, it hasn't even looked at her stuff. And she can memorize almost on her feet. And I was like, this is incredible.
That's nuts.
No, it was like,
Yeah.
it was almost like Stupid Human Tricks.
It's like a skill set you have to have, though. I mean, if you're going
For that show in
yeah,
particular.
right.
But now, granted, they weren't so sticky. I would be like, yeah, I missed that whole page. And they're like, that's all right, move on.
we're good.
Yeah. So
The last one.
Okay. Neil Owen James Cochran from Facebook asks, who's your favorite
Wraith.
Wraith?
Wraith.
Wraith.
Okay.
Can you ask it again, please?
Yes. Neil Owen James Cochran from Facebook asks, who's your favorite Wraith?
Well,
I love this question.
definitely. Let me see who played the Wraith here. You guys were very different.
Yes.
And by the way, you didn't really
Chris
start as a Wraith, right? You
I
kind of
started. Well,
morphed
they took
into-
the Erratus bug out, and then that sort of slowly came back in.
Yeah. The thing is, you and I didn't have as much of that clash.
Right.
A lot of your storyline was with Rachel and
Yeah.
stuff, and so.
Or
you played
alone.
You played a very specific character that had a huge relevance to the whole plot line,
Right.
like seasonally. And Chris Heyerdahl, who played the other Wraith,
Todd.
Todd, had a different thing. He wasn't critical to the plot line per se, but the scenes that I had with him were so much fun because they were just like,
He's so good.
yeah. And Chris is such a good actor.
So good.
And I just love watching him. I catch him on so many things, and I also I run into him in conventions, and we always go to dinner. And he's got this incredible humility.
Sweetest guy in
and
the world.
he's the sweetest guy in the world, and he's always working on something, and he always surprises me how good he is. And talk about that humility.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was going to work at 3:30 in the morning to get prosthetics put on. And at first, before you showed up, he was playing all the Wraith. So he was showing up. Yeah, he was the incognito Wraith for a long time.
He was every Wraith.
He was a bunch of Wraith
Jesus.
until he got into a specific character.
Right.
And so he was showing up a lot and having to go through prosthetics. And I remember sitting on the set, and he'd be sitting there smoking a cigarette. And I was like, I go, wow, I'm doing a sci-fi show with a monster. He's smoking a cigarette, and I'm drinking coffee. And like, if it would be a great picture.
Yeah.
And so those were my favorite scenes tete-a-tete. But as far as the overall, your guy was by far the most like important and interesting wraith for the overall arc of all the plot lines.
Yeah. You saw me.
And you and I had to come to that kind of truce. The thing is with you, I think with everything, what was kind of cool was finding that weird integrity in your enemy.
Right.
And
Yeah.
coming to the agreement of like, are we good? And then you're like, we're good if you're good. And then it's a cool place to get to with
Yeah.
a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, he was a villain, definitely, but he had been acted upon, and he was reacting. He wasn't just the classic like,
Yeah.
which I thought made for interesting scenes and stories.
Your guy.
Yeah.
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 No, for sure.
Yeah.
You felt betrayed, your character.
I said it all the time.
You said something
You
to me
guys
today.
did this to me.
Yeah. You said something
And-
to me
and we
today that
did.
changed my
Yeah.
perspective.
We did screw you over.
Right. And
Yeah.
gave me no place.
Yeah.
Michael was in purgatory and was looking for a home
Yeah.
and to protect himself.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
All right. Time to play speed round of Star Trek trivia.
Oh shit.
Oh
Since
boy.
we're running.
know I'm gonna be bad
we're
at this.
running against the clock with our.
You know I'm
Data
gonna be
cards.
bad at any Star Trek.
I am too.
Here's your button. You get a button. You
Holy
get a button.
crap.
So it's meant they're designed to be pressed on a table, but if you want to hold it in your hand,
It's
you
easier
can
just
just
to-
mash down on
Got
any
it.
one of those buttons. So it's multiple choice. She will ask the questions.
Okay.
4 options. The button doesn't become active until she's done with the final question.
Okay, because I'm going to
Or
be
the
doing this
final
Like the
whole
last
time.
word. Like the last,
It'll-
yeah.
Right. So it'll change color, and once it changes colors, you can bang on your thing.
Yeah,
and then-
we'll
And
figure
you
it
and
out.
I against Mark.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Really?
That's right. Little team
So-
against him.
All right, let's move.
Right.
Chris, do you still want me to do them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
But let's move quick, please. Thank you.
You're okay.
All right, there we go. Good.
Okay. Are you guys ready for Star Trek trivia?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me put my clothes back on.
Question number 1. What was the Federation principle intended to protect the natural development of non-warp capable civilizations from outside interference originally called? A. The Temporal Accord. B. General One Order. A. The Temporal Accord. Let me start over. A. The Temporal Accord. B. General Order 1. C. The Treaty of Versailles. Or D. The Omega Directive.
General Order number 1.
No idea.
Oh, Chris.
Oh, boy.
I was pretty sure when I read about the Treaty of Versailles, at the end of World War I, the Star Trek guys were there.
I'm sure they were.
All right.
Question number 2. In Voyager, which Renaissance-era scientific figure served as mentor to Captain Janeway while visiting the holodeck? A. Sir Isaac Newton. B. Albert Einstein. C. Galileo. Or D. Leonardo da Vinci. Ooh.
All right. What do you think?
Leonardo da Vinci, Albert Einstein, Galileo, and who? Copernicus?
Sir Isaac Newton.
I'm gonna go with Newton because everything's about physics and flying.
Mark.
Damn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leonardo da Vinci.
All right.
That hack.
I hate
Lame.
smart people.
Lame smart guy.
And question number 3.
That's why I'd never hang out with them.
That's right.
Question number 3. In the Next Generation episode Clues, approximately how long does the crew discover they were unconscious for? A. A day. B. A week. C. A month. Or D. 0.68 seconds.
An episode a week?
The longest one, whatever the
A
longest
month?
one is.
A month?
Was that
Is
it?
that the longest a month?
Was the longest a
Yes.
month?
Yes, yes. It's
gotta be
a
a
day, a
month.
week, a month, or 68
Why would you be?
seconds.
You were not gonna be surprised if you were out for
A month.
6.8.
A month.
A week. Was it a day?
Yep. 1 day.
All right.
All right,
So no
next.
one got that one.
Jeez.
Question number 4. In Deep Space Nine, what was the popular uprising led by Legate Damar against the occupation of the Cardassian Union by the Dominion?
The Kardashians.
Yeah, they're also in Deep Space Nine.
A. The Bajoran Underground. B. The Cardassian Liberation Front. C. The People's Front of Judea. Or D. The Orient Syndicate.
Ah, shit. I know it.
I'm pretty sure the Kardashians have been in space for a while.
Oh yeah, well, they've had to get work done.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Guys, you're killing me. Will you ask a question I might know?
Can you read
Yeah.
those
Let me
answers
do,
again?
I can. A. The Bajoran Underground. B. The Cardassian Liberation Front. C. The People's Front of Judea. Or D. The Orient Syndicate.
It's not Judea.
Number 2.
Okay.
Number 2.
B? Okay.
Hey,
Hey, I knew that all along.
me too.
Yay.
right.
Question number 5. In the Next Generation episode Q Who, besides claiming they will need his help very soon, what reason does Q give for wanting to join the crew of the Enterprise? A. He's bored. B. He's hiding from an arch nemesis. C. He wants to observe human behavior in a life or death, no-win situation. Or D. He's homeless.
Oh, I've seen this.
Yes, you have.
He's homeless.
Wow. Wow. We're tied 2 to
We're
2.
tied. We have 3 Stargate Atlantis
job.
questions.
Okay, I might do a little better at this. Probably not.
Okay. Question number 6. How long can the Stargate stay open for? A. 32 minutes. B. 38 minutes. C. 35 minutes. Or D. 30 minutes.
Mark. Fuck.
What
I thought it was 38 minutes.
38 minutes?
Yeah.
God damn it.
Because I think we had an episode 38 minutes, didn't we?
Called that?
I think so.
Was that the tiebreaker? That
No.
was the tiebreaker.
Oh, I mean, we can do it that way.
Just
Sure.
finish it.
Okay. Question number 7. What color hair did the head wraith have? A. White. B. Brown. C. Yellow. Or D. Red.
It was white.
Pretty sure it was white.
Yeah.
What?
Mark.
You're not even playing
white,
anymore.
White.
They
I
just
said
said
white.
Oh,
No,
I'm
I
sorry.
said white.
I'm sorry. Red.
He had
I
red?
said white. Red.
No, I had white hair.
The
Oh,
head-
what? The queen had
Yeah,
red hair.
The queen had red hair.
I thought you said
Okay.
the head wraith.
The head wraith.
Oh, the
had.
queen bee. What was
color
her
hair
name?
did the head
Oh,
wraith
but if it was a queen, no.
Yeah, I did cut her head off. And it was red hair.
I thought it was played by Andy, and Andy was the head wraith
Yeah, and-
originally. I thought she had white hair. No, all right.
Red hair.
There you go.
Did she have red
Yeah,
hair?
red
Yeah.
Okay.
Last question, number 8. Which character did not appear in the Stargate Atlantis pilot? A. Samantha Carter. B. Daniel Jackson. C. John Sheppard. Or D. Jack O'Neill.
Samantha Carter.
Oh,
That
great.
was correct.
So who won?
I did.
Mark did.
Oh, jeez.
Who
Mark
did I
knows
win
more
for?
about my show than
you guys were doing well
That's
for a minute.
incredible.
Who did
Right.
wait. Connor and Joe played for Sean Coleman.
Oh, yeah.
Patreon member Sean Coleman, and I played for our newest Patreon member, Stefan Reich, our
asking me?
resident German speaker, Stefan Reich.
And Mark won you a new car.
Yeah.
It's about that big.
I won
It's a Hot
to you,
Wheel.
Stefan. Congratulations, and congratulations to you, Sean Coleman, for Connor and Joe losing.
All right. So the last thing that we're going to do is
Yes, I just want to thank the Random Red Shirt podcast for these.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh.
guys.
right. Thanks, guys.
And we have a
They
shirt.
gave us a
They
T-shirt.
gave us both shirts.
Look at that
Nice.
T-shirt.
Nice.
Thank
Looks like
you,
an In-N-Out
Random Red
t-shirt.
Shirt.
Thank you, guys. And now we're going to play Stuck on an Island with Connor Trenier.
So
On
here's
a
how this
deserted
goes.
island.
Just leave the
Deserted
worst stuff
island.
for
So
last.
this-
don't
yeah,
you?
exactly. So this is how this goes. You are stuck on a deserted island. I am the host. And you get the works of Shakespeare and the Bible already. It's like being in a hotel. And then you get to choose your cuisine, your author, your musician, composer, and your dessert. Now, in these, if you say Mexican food, you get all Mexican food. If you're dessert, you pick ice cream, you get all ice cream.
So it's just one thing. And
It's
you're
just
gonna
one
be
thing.
flooded. And only 2 choices with books: a Bible or Shakespeare.
You already get those.
Oh.
You get an
anything
author
else, yeah.
on top of that. And then you get a bonus item, which I still sort of object to.
Which is
but-
basically just a machete.
which is something that doesn't get you off the island, but makes you more comfortable on it.
Okay, for my limited bandwidth after 2 hours on a podcast, just to repeat, books.
Author, musician, cuisine, dessert, and then a bonus item.
Okay.
So I'll go with, what's your author? The rest of your life on this island.
And we skip Shakespeare and God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you already have that.
They're already there.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
God, I read a lot, and I love so many writers. That's a tough one. Actually, I think this is a very counterintuitive choice. I would pick Christopher Hitchens.
Would you?
Yeah, because he seems like just a wonderful, kind of contrarian. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of polymathic and just knew so many things.
Yep.
And we could discuss all sorts of shit, and he has a good sense of humor. So it would be less about the work he did and more about the discussions we could have.
You'd be talking to a coconut, but nonetheless,
Yes,
you could have
I
those
would
discussions.
be talking to a coconut. Yes.
All right.
All right, so Christopher Hitchens, that's the first time we've heard that.
Yes, it is.
Great choice.
Yeah.
Your cuisine.
Oh, boy. This is long-term gastrointestinal health.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Holy
you
mackerel.
don't have to worry about your health.
So a type of cuisine.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with Mediterranean because it just has the biggest variety and is probably the healthiest. Although I love Japanese food, I think I would probably hit a wall.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'd probably hit a wall.
There's a fish wall.
Yeah, I'd hit a
There's
fish
a
wall.
fish wall.
It's a real hard
Yeah,
wall.
I would hit a fish wall where you can go in so many different directions.
Right,
with
right.
Mediterranean.
Okay, Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely not Mexican.
Well, that's
As
my
much as I
choice.
love Mexican, my life would be much shorter. And nobody wanted to spend any
Spending time with you at all.
me.
Okay, your musician, composer, their complete works.
Bach.
Ah,
Yeah,
nice.
I'd do Bach.
great.
Even though I might go crazy listening to just Bach, I think
might.
Bach would.
Yeah, but it's a good crazy.
It would be a good crazy, and the guy was a genius, and I would just like to learn.
While you're talking
I just
to
like to learn how
Coconut
he
Hutchinson.
sees the world.
Well, you could listen to Bach and read Shakespeare and be in pig heaven.
Yeah.
I could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do Bach.
Okay, Bach. And your dessert.
Oh boy, this is where things really go downhill. Because I could eat a certain type of dessert until eternity, and there's a lot of different ones. I'm going to say that my favorite dessert is probably like an apple crumble with vanilla ice cream.
All right. Now you're in my wheelhouse.
Right?
Pie is.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Didn't
My-
But you
Picardo-
got to have the vanilla ice cream, and the apple crisp has to be warm.
Yeah.
We could even say you get all crisps.
Yeah. Peach crisps.
Peach crisp.
You can have
yeah,
all of
no,
them.
I could play with that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that would work.
Okay.
Okay.
So
that's
this
good.
island's not so bad right now.
No, not yet. It's actually kind of fancy.
What a hoity island.
Gee whiz. And then your bonus item. So it doesn't have to be a survival item. It can be ridiculous, like some people choose. I think Jimmy Darren said he wants a Ferrari, and I was
Yeah.
like, where are you going to drive that?
He's like, I'll build a road.
So it's to make you feel more comfortable. You don't get a person
Or an escape.
or an escape.
Do I get a holographic person?
No.
Oh, damn.
No robot people.
No robot people.
No fakey people.
I'm stuck on the island. I'm not getting off that island.
No.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going with a power tool.
I like this.
Yeah, I think I'm going with like probably a power saw.
Okay.
That way I could cut shit down. Could be a chainsaw, could be just a power saw. But once I start messing around with that, I could build things that are pretty insane.
Making you
and then
comfortable.
I've got vine, so I don't. It's
Yep.
not the
Yeah.
nails. I wouldn't need like a power screwdriver. Where would I get the screws?
Where you getting the outlet? Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's a solar powered chainsaw.
solar powered chainsaw.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah. Connor, wouldn't it be?
Oh my God.
Silly.
Somebody's like after 2 hours.
That's right.
You know, I noticed about halfway through this conversation that the two of you are wearing matching shorts.
Yes, we are.
Isn't that incredible?
We mentioned it over there.
Well,
He
you
said-
did.
He said he didn't get the memo.
I did not, but I got the hat memo.
You got the hat. We got the hats. You got the shorts.
Right.
I got a text from her yesterday.
Oh.
What are you wearing, Joe?
What are you gonna wear tomorrow?
I was like, okay.
Let's match.
Power twins.
Matt, thank you so much for coming.
You bet,
Oh
man.
my
That
God.
was fun.
Fantastic.
So much
Yeah.
fun.
Just
Yeah.
don't do the...
Oh, one thing. Joe Flanigan, our
Oh,
guest today,
has a show.
Has a podcast.
Yes.
And what is it?
It's called Joe versus Joe. I have 5 or 6 interviews in the can. I am a little nervous about releasing it right away because I have to keep up this weekly thing. So I am consulting experts
That's us.
Yeah.
who may help me because once I drop, I want to drop on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see what people think. It right now ranges from neuroscientists to historians to
Oh, that's awesome.
political advisors.
It's everything.
Yeah, and then I'll have some actors and musicians on too, and we'll see what sticks. But it's Joe versus Joe, and the premise is I don't want to grow old, and the way to not grow old is by learning, and all struggles are internal.
Yeah.
And so you'll see a bad Joe and a good Joe most of the time, and I'll blame everything on the bad Joe.
Oh, as you should. Is it going to be on what platforms? Like
Right?
YouTube,
It's gonna be on everything I
Spotify,
do.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And so
Joe versus Joe.
Yay.
Check it out. And thank you, Joe Flanigan, man.
you bet.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
Oh,
a
she's
gift
got a
set.
gift for
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Ah,
Forever in.
it's usually in a brown paper bag.
It's a Sicilian wine.
Is it?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
from the mountain that her family's village is on.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm Sicilian. My mom's from there.
Oh yeah. This is great.
Enjoy it. It's
Thank
very
you.
good.
All right.
Fantastic. Like, subscribe, and join us on Patreon.